Welcome back, everybody, to the Big Apple Hockey Weekly Podcast. I mean, it is an exciting week for us. We have actually just crossed the threshold of 1,000 subscribers. So, everybody, thank you very much. We're all just going to give you guys a round of applause on that.
Thank you.
Yes, because after all, we do this both to talk about hockey, and we also do this for you as well. I, of course, am the man that can't find his own nameplate, Mark Williams. And I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John Filkowski.
Put Lafreniere on power play 1, please.
And of course, we got the man who just got his daughter off the bus, working dad, just trying to support the New York Islanders, Mr. Anthony LaRocca.
Yeah, 5 days from the season opener. Can't wait. Let's get going.
I mean, come on. I mean, you got 5 days. It's next Tuesday, right?
Yeah, I think it's the 11th
So
and
that
12th.
actually makes it 6
No,
days.
it's the 12th. The 12th is Wednesday, so it's a week from
It's
today.
6 days. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's 6 days. Either way, thank God. Thank you, hockey, for coming back to us, because that's the one thing that we need. Oh, by the way, Filk, tonight I have a fantasy draft in a second league that I play in, and I got the first overall pick. I was thinking, Anthony, who would you suggest for the first overall pick in fantasy?
I mean, I think that's an easy choice.
I think Marc is just trying to troll us both here, so let's not put too much thought into this.
Anthony and I were in hook step with that.
I think you got to go Pavel Zacha.
When we did it for the
Pavel Zacha.
Pavel Zacha? Oh, yeah, that's
definitely.
it. Do you want to draft Tony Twist while you're
Draft
at it?
Jack Eichel with the first overall pick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no mystery. It is going to be Connor McDavid. But we got a lot of stuff for you guys today because we got team previews for the Rangers and the Islanders. Lots of league talk in our bar talk segment. But what we're going to start off with is progress in the Jack Eichel saga. Like,
Yes.
Is there really progress, Anthony? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Darren Dreger tweeted something earlier this morning regarding how talks with Eichel and Kevin Adams were heading in a more positive direction, if you will. And the hope was that maybe they could get something done sooner than later. So nothing earth-shattering. Doesn't appear imminent, but even the little tidbit that things are maybe progressing in the right direction, was a good thing. And I know our pal Dave Pagnotta, that I sent this tweet in our group chat, he chimed in and kind of furthered that. Saying there are teams that, have been access to his medical records and whatnot. So, we'll see. Again, nothing earth shattering. I don't think we should sit here, hitting the F5 refresh button, looking for a trade here. But, it seems as though maybe both sides are serious in trying to make this, at this point, at least messy breakup and just move on. But, I don't know about you guys. I know Filk's going to chime in a minute, but I'm still in the belief that I don't know if this trade's going to get done soon, albeit this development here.
Go ahead, Filk.
I think Kevin Adams might have finally been given the word that a no movement clause kicks in July, because it sounds like he's starting to get a little serious. And remember when Pat Brisson came along and started representing Jack Eichel, and I said this would eventually speed things up? Look at what's happening. Things are starting to happen because Pat Brisson is the Scott Boras of NHL agents. He's not a guy that takes crap from any GM, from any organization. He knows how to get things done. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to talk to organizations. He knows how to talk to general managers. He knows how to conduct things. And Pat Brisson is probably the reason why this is happening, because I think if Eichel still had his old representation, we wouldn't be at this point right now. We probably wouldn't even be having this discussion. So I think that we're looking at things accelerating a bit, but like you said, nothing to be hitting the refresh button over and over again constantly, or refreshing your Twitter or any other social media feeds. But something feels like it could actually get done sometime this century, as opposed to, I think Jack Eichel's corpse may be rotted by the time he was traded away. So, I mean, it's a good thing. it's a good thing. It gives us something to talk about. There's more chaos on social media and hockey circles. The guys on TSN and all the other NHL Network and all the other media outlets, Sportsnet, whatever, they're all going to start talking about this again. I think something could happen sooner than later. Like you said, I don't know exactly how sooner is, though. That's really the question at this point, because he still has to get some sort of surgery done, whether it's the surgery Buffalo wants or whether it's the surgery that he wants. So how long exactly is either way going to keep him out of action? And is Kevin Adams finally going to start negotiating in good faith and back off of his asking price of what a healthy Eichel would return as opposed to this version of Jack Eichel? That remains to be the question. So I don't know if Kevin Adams wants to continue to make this a personal issue and continue to drag him through the mud. Hopefully Pat Brisson can mend that and really start working on it. But it sounds like Brisson is more involved in this than his previous representation ever was. And that's a good sign for everyone involved in this and Sabres fans as well. So
this is kind of my take on this for this week, and the only new developments, not anything specific to it's because we've talked about him so much that it's just ad nauseum. So this is what I'll say about this.
Beat the dead horse.
Yeah, just beating the dead horse. It's Noodles on TSN referred to Eichel as being a spoiled brat. When you're telling me to get an operation on my neck, I will be a spoiled brat every day of the week. Go to just no. And I'm not even going to finish that. I do understand what he's saying, and I do think there were times where Eichel's been a spoiled brat. This is not the same story. Kevin Adams, I will repeat this from day one, almost from day one, because it was the draft when I said that he screwed it up. Kevin Adams screwed this up. This is, you want to say good for Kevin Adams. He's showing a good, big time player who the boss is. Guess what? If you're a big time free agent, you want to go to Buffalo? Doesn't matter how much money they spend, which, by the way, our Mr. Anthony Morocco was talking in our group chat about how Buffalo is one of the 5 wealthiest owners in the league. So, of course, he spends on the team. So right now, you mean to tell me that if this is the way you're going to treat a superstar, your franchise player, who was your consolation prize for Connor McDavid, as you said, at the NHL lottery that year, what a great soundbite that was. It's just, no. I'm actually now on Eichel's side on this. I can't believe this. And if you do get him, let's say Chris Drury picks up the phone and acquires him tomorrow. He gets surgery the day after that. You're still looking at maybe January. The kid's losing the Olympics. He's losing half the season minimum. We don't even know what the full recovery time is. I don't think Jack Eichel plays a game this year, but that's a different story. Yeah, again, I can't believe how full circle this has gone. And just let it end. It's like The Walking Dead. We're literally just knocking it into the ground. It's not even that good anymore. And I mean The Walking Dead. Anthony.
One of my things right now with if even Eichel's traded, I don't know how much help he's going to be to the team that acquires him, because like you referenced, he has a surgery and he's going to be out to, let's say, January. And I mean, that's November. You're talking 3 months without the big asset you just traded for. And I'll just use the example of the Rangers here, because they've been, in the midst of this the whole time. Salary's got to go the other way. Let's say they trade Ryan Strome in a package for Eichel. Now, and I think we could all agree, not knock on them, the center really isn't their strongest depth area. So you trade
more on that in a minute.
You trade away Strome, and then Eichel's out until, let's say, January. Filip moves from the third line center to the second line center, and then you plug 3 and 4 with whoever. So if something like that played out, the Rangers actually become a worse team until he gets back. So I don't know how that would help anybody in that situation, really. Not even if it's not just the Rangers, but I mean, I guess if there's a team that's a little stronger down the center ice, then maybe not. But the point remains, you're going to trade for a guy in Eichel who's not going to play for a couple of months. So how beneficial is that really? And I think that's going to be at play in terms of these discussions here and what teams are willing to give up, because you're going to subtract from your roster and not pay dividends of Eichel until, the foreseeable future. So that's something interesting to watch.
Well, that's the problem. That's why I've said for months now that Adams has misplayed this horribly. He was trying to act like he had a nut hand in a game of Texas Hold'em when he was really playing with 7-2 offsuit. It was stupid. Yeah. If he would have just either let him have the surgery, or if they would have just come to a resolution and he would have approached him like a decent human being and not treated him like a pile of trash, I mean, he could have actually gotten the surgery, have been ready for this season, and you would have been able to trade him for a lot more. Teams would have actually been willing to give up something even in the same stratosphere as what Kevin Adams wanted. Not that he was going to get, let's just say, the equivalent of Lafreniere, Kakko, first-round pick, and someone like Filip. Like, he was never going to get that for Eichel in this situation, especially after the trade request out. Yeah. But at least if back in May he would have just said, okay, you know what? You're having the surgery at the end of May. We'll let you have the surgery. You go, you recover. You're ready for camp. You're ready for the start of this season. Teams would have been willing to actually negotiate with him. But instead, Kevin Adams decided, we're not going to let you see the medical records for this player because there's obviously something that we don't want other GMs to see. So now he's screwed everything up even more. And now he finally realizes that in order to get something for this asset and not have him deteriorate even more to the point where that no movement clause kicks in, and he just absolutely railroads Adams completely, which smart idea, Kevin. Way to go, buddy. Good job, slap nuts. And you know what? You would have been able to get something for him. But you know what? Now the clock is ticking. Now he knows it. Now he really wants to make a move. So, I mean, again, I'll say good on Pat Brisson for trying to make things civil and actually get something done. But Kevin Adams has really tanked Eichel's value. It's just a piss poor job of being a GM.
It's unbelievable that this saga is still going on. And I mean, I would love to make the joke what gets settled first, a Brady Tkachuk's contract or Jack Eichel's contract? Truth is, what gets settled first? Government conspiracy. Do we know who actually shot JFK before we get Jack Eichel traded? It's just, come on. I couldn't pull a government conspiracy out of my head right away, but still, what are your thoughts on the Jack Eichel trade? We're going to move on and just put it all down in the comments below. So we got more important stuff to talk about because the season is starting next week. And because the season is starting next week, we got to do team previews, which is great to look ahead. The first one we're going to do, obviously, is going to be the New York Rangers. That's what you get when you start the channel. Yay. Although the Islanders were the lead plenty of the summer, Anthony, so don't worry about that one. Guys, here we go. John, I'm going to start with you on this. What do you most like about this team?
They're exciting. There's a lot of intrigue with this team because you have the influence of a lot of young talent coming up through this team. You have an elite player, a top 10 player in the league in Artemi Panarin, a superstar player in Mika Zibanejad. You look like you have a franchise goalie locked up. You have one of the three best defensemen in the league right now in Adam Fox. I would say him, Hedman, and who else would you want to put in your top three? Yossi? But Adam Fox is a top three defenseman in this league right now. So you've got core pieces. They added a lot of toughness. They added some leadership, and they added some veterans in there. So now this locker room is going to have more stability than it had last year. And Statboy Steven has said this to me multiple times personally, and I'm pretty sure he said this on here and on Wardy. But the Rangers had a ton of issues that most normal teams wouldn't have to deal with over the span of 3 seasons in 1 season last year. The Tony incident, the Trouba injury, the Panarin incident. Quinn, that incident and Knobloch coming in and then Quinn losing the locker room and everything, they had a lot of adversity to deal with. So a lot of the things that happened last year should not happen again this year. And it's going to be interesting to see how this team comes together. I will say one thing. The adjustment period is something that fans are going to have a lot of patience with. And we saw this with Vigneault in 2013-14. That October was brutal. One of the worst months in Rangers' recent history, I should say. But have patience. Gallant will guide them in the right direction. Trust me on that.
I'll jump in with mine first. And yes, it's Gerard Gallant. We already know about the talent pool. And we already know about that they've kind of moved things around to be a more gritty team. But Gallant's job is now to make those pieces fit. And I had zero confidence in David Quinn trying to do that at the end of last year. Now, with that being said, even though we were at the game last week, by the way, you could check out that video that we have on there. As we watched Anthony's Islanders shut out the Rangers, they still looked better in their 4-0 loss versus the Islanders than they did in any of the losses versus the Islanders at the end of the last season. It was just awful. At least there was some fight in that team. Gerard Gallant is a steadying influence, and the peaks and the valleys of the season are going to be a lot less. Yes, I'm looking. Yes, the talent would be yours. That I agree with you on that. I'm looking at Gerard Gallant and saying that's going to be the key factor, and he just fits in with the murderer's row of head coaches that are in the Metropolitan Division. I can't wait to see what this team is going to do for the regular season. Anthony.
I mean, for this is easy. I mean, their skill led by Artemi Panarin. Artemi Panarin is one of the best players in the game. He has the ability to carry the Rangers, really. Combine him with Zibanejad, who's developed into a really good player in his own, and then the hopeful for you guys, the impending breakouts of Lafreniere and Kakko, and then, of course, Norris Trophy winner Adam Fox on the defense. This team's got a lot of good mix of skill. It's just really about the young guys taking that next step and really propelling them to the next level because, Panarin does need more help. But if everything falls their way in terms of development of their young guys, this team is going to be a good team for, many years to come. But Panarin's elite. I think any other team would love to have him. So for me, him quite easily he's what I like about the team the most. I mean, he proved right from the beginning in Chicago that he was a really good player, and then in Columbus on a team not nearly as skilled. He had really, really good years with them. The guy's legitimate, and the Rangers need him healthy and in the lineup to have a good chance of making the playoffs.
All right, so now moving on, you got to look at the goaltending situation. And Filk, go ahead. How do you assess the goalies?
Oh, I don't want to make any judgments off of preseason. The goaltending is looked up and down. It should be Igor 1, Georgiev 2. And that was Quinn's mistake last year. And you pointed that out so many times. We were all over that. I would say, if anything, shut up. I know exactly what you were getting at. But, yeah, so you're looking at a 1 and a 2, and hopefully the right rotation this time around. No carousel, no games, no nonsense, no competition. As much as I like Georgiev, I feel like his value has been tanked, and I don't think that he's anywhere close to star quality. And I would hope that Gallant would see this as well and say, hey, Igor's the guy. Let's go with our guy. So I like the goaltending. The defense really has to help them out this season, which I think it will. But Igor's the number one going forward, should be a solid goaltender. So I like what I see there.
Well, as I said last year, it was, and I mean, most of it was even before Anthony started joining us, but this team should have had Igor at number 1 and Georgiev was a distant number 2, like so far distant, you would need binoculars to see him. Not necessarily a Mike Keenan number 2, but that's a different story. He proved it. I mean, if he plays too many games, I think he gets exposed, and that's just what we're looking at. And Shesterkin is the guy you have to develop if this team is going to be great. Shesterkin's got to be there. The one thing about Shesterkin is he's going to have to be healthy. He had the groin injury last year. The year before was a car accident. Can't get on him about the car accident, but he's had some problems with injuries. His save percentage, usually the second month of the season, is outstanding. In February, I believe he had a 930 both years so far. Now he's got to do it for a full year. So, well, let's see if he's really the guy to do it, because we're going to be talking about goaltending across the way in about a few more minutes. And Anthony, what's your thoughts on the Rangers goaltending?
I'll start with Georgiev. I don't think he's particularly that good. I think the Rangers missed the boat on trading him. What was it, 2 years ago, maybe? I think
2 years,
the Maple Leafs were interested possibly when they were looking for goaltending help. But that's in the past. But Georgiev is what he is. He's a guy that, can be a backup goalie in this league, but if he plays too much, his kind of true colors shine through. He's not a guy you can rely on as your starter or an extended period of time. But as far as Shesterkin goes, I think we all know it. The guy can be an elite goaltender. Last year, he had 916 save percentage, which, let's face it, fellas, 916 save percentage isn't bad. But for a guy with his capability, he's capable of posting a 930 save percentage, and that type of numbers is elite for a goalie. So, if he could stay healthy and play at the top of his game, there's no doubt in my mind he can be that guy. I just think he needs, and as he gets older and more used to the North American game, he'll become more consistent. He'll get there. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But again, for him, it's really just about staying healthy and just trying to play at that consistent high level for the whole season, which is what the truly elite goalies do. But it takes some guys some time to really develop into that. But I have no issues with the Rangers goaltending. They could get a better guy than Georgiev backup, but it's not a huge glaring issue. It's not really worth trying to address at this point. So as long as Shesterkin stays healthy, I think the Rangers will be solid in goal. Now,
this is the one question before we move on to the next thing that I have is this going to be a season where the backup goaltender really impacts the team, given that there's going to be the pressure to play more games before the Olympic break? And then you got the compact schedule after the Olympic break too.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Just like my boy across the other side of the river.
More on them in a minute.
In Ilya, same case with Igor. These guys, none of them have played a full 82 game season yet. Shesterkin had 12 games his first year, and obviously last year was the 56 game season. Then he was hurt, so. This is going to be his first full year as a starter playing in an 82 game season. So, he's played full seasons in the KHL, but it's different here in North America. So, that definitely plays a role. I'm sure they'll monitor that. They don't want to burn him out. But I think a lot of goalies are going to, well, I should say a lot of young goalies are going to have this type of issue this year. The veterans, like Vasilevsky, we all know who they are, Hellebuck, they'll jump right back into it. But it's the younger guys where it's going to be interesting to see how they, kind of react to playing that full season. So, but yeah, that's a good point, Mark. It's especially with the Olympic break thrown in there, it's a whole new wrinkle for these younger guys who've never gone through it before.
Filk.
In terms of what Anthony was just saying, I'd have to agree. You're really going to start to see guys who haven't adjusted to a full season schedule yet maybe struggle a little bit with it. In the cases, I should say, of Shesterkin and Sorokin, they've played full seasons in the KHL. So they are used to a bigger workload. Yes, it's different because the ice surfaces. And the scheduling is a bit different. It's a little more lenient on the body, I would say, in the KHL because of our more traveling with less games. So it's a lot less of a compacted schedule as opposed to the NHL. But I overall agree with Anthony's point there. I think you're gonna see a lot of adjustments being made for younger goaltenders. I think Igor and Ilya will both be able to handle it. As for the Varlamov injury, I don't know the extent of the injury, and I'll save that for when we get to the Islanders. But Igor, I think will be okay because they rode him for a while before that car accident back in I think it was February, the end of February 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So he was really good for a while, and they were really, really putting everything on him. He was handling the load. So I think he'll be all right. And I think if the defense is better, which I think they will be, I think it'll take some time, but they will eventually figure everything out in this new system. I think that'll help a bit too, because he won't have to be bailing them out of every game as he did in 2019-20. So I think Igor is going to be all right.
Which goes right back to what we're saying again before. Does this team have the depth to compete? Filk, we're going to start with you.
That's really the key issue here is do they really have what it takes to compete? In normal years where a Pittsburgh would be at full power to start the season, or Washington hadn't lost a top 4 defenseman or something like that, I might lean towards no. But this year, I think with the moves that they've made, and if you get the development that you're looking for to the 3 big young forwards in Lafreniere, Kakko, and Kravtsov, they could have the depth to compete. And I think ultimately they do. It's just a matter of how those 3 develop. And you have Barclay Goodrow coming in. That'll help boost your bottom 6. Sammy Blais looks to be every bit the part and is starting to show Ranger fans the reason why they traded for him. And again, he's never going to win everybody over because Buchnevich went the other way. And there's always going to be that sect of Ranger fans that will hate Sammy Blais because of that, which is not Sammy Blais' fault. You direct your anger at Chris Drury there. And I get that. But Sammy Blais is a great addition to this team. Don't get anything twisted there. So I think overall the depth that they've been missing in the bottom 6 that we've complained about for the last, 2-3 seasons now has finally been replenished a bit. And I think that's going to make them more competitive because Gallant can actually roll 4 lines without having to worry about a fringe NHL player like DiGiuseppe or someone like that getting important minutes late in a game because you have to roll 4 lines to keep everyone fresh. So, yeah, I say this team has the depth, and having Pittsburgh out or Pittsburgh down, 2 men to start the season and of getting Malkin out for 2 months, leaving Jeff Carter as their number 1 center, that helps them go a long way in this division. They've got to get points early. So let's hope that adjustment period isn't too long.
I'm going to say that they have the depth, and I'm saying it. If it's a yes/no answer, I'm going to go with yes. I like what they did on the 3rd and 4th line. I think it's even better. I think they got a couple guys that could step in both defensively and on the bottom 6 that could really help. Obviously, Artemi Panarin goes down again. The New York Rangers are in trouble. But they might be able to stretch it out as a team. They're going to be coached better because Artemi Panarin is the ultimate deodorant. He's MVP for a reason, or MVP candidate, I should say, 2 years ago. And now with, I keep saying this over and over again, Gerard Gallant's going to make them a better team because they're going to get more down the lineup. I got a guy that I'm going to be talking about in a minute on when we talk about players, and I'm going to mention him, but there's a couple key guys that are going to be very important to this team's success. Now, there are a couple players, if they lose them, they're in some trouble. If they lost Shesterkin for a while, they're in a little bit of trouble. And you need to see this team did not look the same after Jacob Trouba's injury. And Ranger fans love to rip on this guy because of the contract and what the expectations were, but they were not the same after Trouba went out, after Kreider went out. So let's see if they could still like have some physicality and be a quality team when if those guys have trouble. And usually Chris Kreider always has like a 2-week injury. Anthony.
Yeah, they have depth. AZ had a comment above that I saw that he said it has improved. How tested is it is the question, but no, they got the depth. Obviously, are they deep as some other teams? No, but it's a lot better than it was in the past. I think Morgan Barron can step in and play a fourth line role if, let's say, Kevin Rooney went down. Julien Gauthier is kind of knocking on the door, being an everyday player. So he's a guy that could play in the event that there's an injury. Barclay Goudreau helps, Sammy Blais helps. So they definitely improved. Like Mark, you mentioned, if Panarin goes down, but you could say that any team. I mean, if any team loses your top elite player, you're kind of screwed. So there aren't many teams that could say, I could lose our best player and still have, depth to really I guess Nikita Kucherov is a great point in Tampa Bay. They didn't have him, but that team was a machine last year. But I don't really have any problems with their depth. I think it's good enough for them to compete. And like any other team, your goal is to stay healthy, but that's something you can never predict. But overall, I do think they're deep enough to have some moderate success.
All right, so when you're looking at this team right now, what's the player that you're keying on? And I'll start you guys off, and we'll go in reverse order on this one. I'll go Filk next. My guy is Kaapo Kakko. This is I'm really looking at him now. The reins are off. He's getting bigger. Everybody's excited about him in the comments, so we all know. But this guy looks like he's going to finally give us a glimpse of what he's really going to be. And if he's going to end up being a top 6 forward this season and actually break the 20-goal barrier, I'm not going to say the 30-goal barrier. That's too much pressure to put on a kid. But he's not even 21 years old yet. And this is going to be great if he could start becoming who he's going to be. That's why I'm looking at him. Filk, I go to you.
Easily Alexis Lafreniere. Everything is on this kid. He was the number 1 overall pick. He was touted to be the franchise player. He's touted to be the guy, probably the future face of the franchise at some point. And I think he will be the captain one day. And this is where it's going to have to start. He's going to be playing with most likely Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad. He's going to be playing in the top 6. He's going to be the play driver to replace Pavel Buchnevich. And I think this is the year where he absolutely breaks out, especially if he stays with that line long term and they keep him on the left side. The one thing, like I said at the very start of the show when you introduced me, is they've got to put him on power play 1. It can't be Ryan Strome off that right side wall. You can't be. You need a left-handed shot on that unit. You need a shooter off that wall. You need to give teams another element to be scared of. He has an elite shot. He absolutely has an elite shot. We've all seen what he can do. We've all seen him snipe out top corners. This kid's incredible. So this is his time. And I'm totally, my eyes are going to be fixated on him. And Kakko would be my number 2. So Alexis Lafreniere is the guy that you've got to watch out for if you're watching the Rangers.
Anthony.
Mark, I'm gonna say Kaapo Kakko too. I agree with Filk. Lafreniere is a guy you got to watch out for. He was the first overall pick for a reason. It is only his second year, but Kakko is a little different. I think this is a guy that for the Rangers really take the next step. He needs to be that player that everyone thought he could be when they drafted him second overall. It's fine if he develops, let's just say, into a 15-goal guy who gives you really good defense. But if he becomes that, 30-30 guy, then that's kind of like a game changer. So if he could become that player, that just makes the Rangers that much of a scarier team. However, if he doesn't really if he doesn't really take the next step offensively, I think a lot more questions and pressure is going to fall on his shoulders. And then I think that becomes even harder for him to play with that weighing on him. And then maybe the Rangers have to have a different conversation, when it comes to looking at their situation going forward and, how much to give him and, how long they want to, because he's still going to want, I think, a decent amount of money when his ELC is up, and you really want to pay top dollar to a guy who's not giving you the production of a, second overall pick. But so for me, it's him. He's got bigger. He's got stronger. He's a year more experienced. Let's see what you got now, because, the Rangers, like I said, they really need him to be that player to take the next step.
Yeah, you want to see that growth in him. And by the way, in our bar talk segment in about maybe 20 minutes, we'll be going over a player that really is comparable with Kakko's growth. But we're going to move on to this one, which is what player could be most critical to this team, Filk?
I gotta stay right where I just was. It's Lafreniere, because if he develops into the top 6 forward that they think he can and will be this year, then that goes a long way towards replacing Pavel Buchnevic's offense. And I've said that I think this player will be a point per game or better player at some point in his career. If he starts getting close to that this year, this team could go a long way. And I'm not saying cup or anything like that, but they could be a real legitimate contender, be a playoff team, possibly make some noise in the playoffs. So I think Alexis Lafreniere is most critical, because when you think about it, you know what you're going to get out of Artemi Panarin. He's going to score at a 90-plus point pace, 90 to 100 points, possibly even more than 100 points. Adam Fox is probably going to give you Norris caliber play, whether he gives you 70-plus points or not, or 65 points. I don't know, but he's going to be in Norris. He's going to be in the Norris conversation. Shesterkin would probably be the second player, because there are some questions that are unanswered for me about Igor, whether he can carry the load for a full season, whether he actually is the guy or not. He still has to. He's shown us glimpses that he is, but he still has to answer the question. But, and I get what Anthony was saying about Kakko. He's right about that. If he doesn't start to show you something this year, then the conversations change. Then the organization's outlook on him changes as well. Then there's a lot more pressure on his shoulders. But Lafreniere is the guy. Lafreniere has to be the top 6 forward that they need him to be. He has to replace Buchnevich this year. So for me, it's Lafreniere.
I'm going to point out our interview with Dan Rosen last week. And the guy that I'm about to say, because we pretty much know what we're going to get from the Kreider Zibanejad line, the Panarin Strome line is just going to be where some guys fit in. But FIlip really could be the key to the New York Rangers season. If he ends up bringing quality play and maybe even a little bit of physicality, we know about the thighs, we know about his legs. Now you're going to have to start to bring it. I mean, we could talk about Kakko being, hey, show us what you got. It's sort of like Rick and Morty with the big giant head. Show me what you got. That's what FIlip has to do. And it's going, I think he's going to be critical because of the line that he plays on. I still am not 100% sold that Lafreniere is going to be the right wing for Kreider and Zibanejad, because I still think there's a possibility Chris Kreider might move down. And if you're going from the template of, let's say you use the Tampa Bay Lightning template, I think you're closer to using Gaudreau on the right, Kreider on the left, and Chytil as the center. I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility. That's where it might be. But you know what? I would love it if Lafreniere is the right wing and Chris Kreider puts up his career goals of the season. Remember, president of the Chris Kreider fan club. But back to FIlip. FIlip is my guy. If he brings a quality of the bottom 6, that he can play good defensively and score, this team is on a different level. Anthony.
Filk didn't pick him, but he referenced him. I'm going to go Igor Shesterkin. This is a guy that I think everyone's in agreement that he can be elite. he's not there yet, and I think he's got to prove a lot to put himself in that conversation. And I'm not saying like Kakko, it's kind of like a make or break year. It's not with Igor either, but I think this is the year where the Rangers are really going to gauge, all right, do we have our goaltender for an extended period of time here? Or, do we have to maybe start putting some more resources in developing another goalie? I think he's got to stay healthy, and he's got to play at the top of his game because, in this league, if you don't have good goaltending, there maybe been some exceptions to the rule over the years. You're not really going to win many hockey games. And if Igor either can't stay healthy and is hurt, that puts the Rangers in a bad spot because that leaves them with Gorgiev. Or if he's just not playing up to his level, that's gonna hurt the Rangers. He needs to be that, I'm not saying he needs to be 930, but he needs to be, like 923, 924. I think that's kind of where he really needs to be for the Rangers to maximize their success and their ability. So I think he's got to get there because if he doesn't, that could really hurt them. But then again, that's the case with a lot of teams. Goaltending is that important. I kind of equate it to pitching in baseball, having a good quarterback in football. It's just how it is. And the thing is, he has that potential. He's just got to show it now for over an 82-game season.
One thing to mention, though, just to flash back to Vegas, Gerard Gallant in the first season of the Las Vegas Golden Knights, I believe he went through 5 goaltenders. He definitely went through 4. I think he went to a 5th at one point. So if crisis does hit, he's already been through a similar situation like that before. Okay, so we already talked about what we like about these about the New York Rangers. John, I'm going to go to you first. What do you least like about him?
A lot of question marks. The kids, they're a question mark. Lafreniere's a question mark. Kakko's a question mark. Kravtsov's a question mark. Chytil's a question mark. Igor is still a question mark. I mean, there's not enough of I know what I'm getting on this team. I know what I'm getting from Panarin. I know what I'm getting from Zibanejad. I know what I'm getting from Fox. But after that, what am I sure of? I'm sure that Ryan Strome will probably give you around 50 to 60 points. Okay, but can he improve to the point where we don't have to worry about center depth? Because that's a big part that I also don't like about this team is center depth. I don't like center depth after Mika Zibanejad. I like Ryan Strome, but only to a point, and I like him because of his chemistry with Artemi Panarin. So the center depth really isn't great. The depth on defense, I like the addition of Nils Lundkvist, but I haven't liked what I've seen from Keandre Miller since the first half of the previous season ended. He hasn't played well since then, and that was before Jacob Trouba's injury. I don't like what I've seen from Jacob Trouba as a Ranger so far. Too many ups and downs from him. Nils Lundkvist, another unknown. Patrick Nemeth, I'm not a fan of him. I said that when they signed him. I'm not a fan. His foot speed still doesn't look good. I would hope that he kind of gets it together and really helps Nils Lundkvist out a bit, but I don't like what I've seen from him. So there are way too many question marks on this team for my liking.
Well, it wouldn't be a show if I didn't kick my camera.
Good job.
You know something? I got to agree about the question marks. It's almost too many options. That's the way that I'll say it. You got to figure out who's going to be that 6th defenseman. Lundkvist, Schneider, Jones. Because if it's Jones and Schneider, there's a chance you can always throw them in a tandem, and then it's da 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 da. Where does Kravtsov fit in? They need. I always made the joke last year about the Tool song. I know the pieces fit. Well, if they fit, where are they? Where are they fitting? That's where it comes into, and that's what Gerard Gallant's going to have to figure out. And we'll see what he could do. Anthony, what do you not like about the Rangers?
I was going to say center depth, but, Phil kind of pushed me over the edge to kind of pretty much say what he said. It's good to have a young team, but there's so many young players that they're kind of relying on to play to their potential to really take that next step. and that's tough. He mentioned it all, like Igor, Lafreniere, Kakko, Chytil, Nils Lundqvist to a lesser extent. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what he was trying to portray is that I'll paint this picture. If all those young guys don't, let's say, really step up or play at the same level they did, or even take a step back, who do you have on the team to make a playoff team? Yeah, Panarin's amazing, Zibanejad is good, and Fox is good, but are those three guys enough to counteract not getting anything else from a lot of the roster? I mean, the answer is probably no. I mean, Marc, I know you love Kreider, you're president of his fan club, but I mean, he's not a guy you rely on.
No,
that's really who's left after that. Kreider, Ryan Strome, but Strome you don't have to worry about too much because he has that good chemistry with Panarin. But for me, that's something I don't like about them. But it could go the other way. If all these young guys take the next step and really excel, then forget about it. They're Ranger fans are going to be really excited. So it's one of those things, and go one way or the other, and or maybe kind of fall somewhere between the middle. And if that happens, then then that's what they would call like a bubble team. So if it goes really good, definite playoff team. If it kind of falls right in the middle, bubble, and if what we just talked about, if they don't, then you're talking another year without the playoffs. So,
well, it's actually great that you said it just like that, because that's what the next question is. If everything breaks right, how far can they go? And Filk, we got actually, you know what, Anthony, keep going.
Yeah, go on, Anthony.
So I think if everything breaks right, they're a playoff team. I know the three of us in our predictions of the Metro, me and Filk are pretty identical. Marc, you just flipped the Islanders and the Hurricanes. So for me, if everything goes right, 3-4 in the Metro, which obviously 3 is a definitive playoff team. 4 is probably wild card, but that's where I could see it absolutely happening for the Rangers. Like I said, this division, there's a lot of question marks with Pittsburgh. I really don't like them, and Dan Rosen kind of agreed with us. He still thinks the Caps are a playoff team, and that's fair because I think that's very plausible. But them, they're getting older. Flyers, they're like Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know which Flyers team you're going to get. It seems like every other year they flip-flop. So, yeah, I think if everything breaks right, the Rangers could be right there in that, 3-4 spot in Metro. Maybe 5, and, in some cases, the number 5 spot could make them make the playoffs, especially if, you're talking no wild cards out of the Atlantic. But that's another topic, which they're a little stronger too. But yeah, so that's kind of where I could see if everything goes right. They're a playoff team.
Filk.
Yeah, I really liked Leo's comment here before because I think that's pretty accurate. I think it's very fair. They're a top 4 team in the Metro if everything goes right. I think they could even be 3rd, possibly 2nd place in that division if everything goes right. I still think the Islanders are the cream of the crop. Carolina does have some questions, especially on defense.
Goaltending.
Especially if you're employing Tony DeAngelo to play minutes in the NA or minutes at even strength. I mean, he's great on the power play, but at even strength, he's a absolute disaster. So I would definitely say at this point, if everything goes right, they could be a possible top 3 team in that division, especially with Pittsburgh's issues. Washington, they're an old core. Are they going to start to fall apart? Are you going to start to see the effects of Alexander Ovechkin missing a handful of games throughout his illustrious NHL career? Or is Nicholas Backstrom's injury going to be an ongoing problem throughout the season? Is their age going to be a factor? Can Ilya Samsonov step up and finally be that number 1 goalie, or is he just going to be a hyped prospect that was really good as a prospect, but kind of goes to the wayside in the NHL and really isn't that great of an NHL starter? They have some questions too. So I would say if everything breaks good for the Rangers, I'm saying a top 3 team, maybe the 4th seed as well in the division. I think they could even possibly win a playoff round depending on who they draw.
Now, Gerard Gallant did coach a team to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they actually won Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm not making that prediction right here. I think the Rangers can make the playoffs and be a tough out in the first round, possibly win a round. It's going to be tough to factor them ahead of that. I like them as a playoff team this year. I think they got a lot of good pieces that can make sure that they get there. And I don't think the Metro is going to be without a reach. There's going to be plenty of teams that are going to be knocking each other off in the Metro. You might see that might be the toughest division between 1 to 7. No, 1 to 6. I'm sorry. Out of all the teams. So we'll see about that. But again, I think the Rangers are a playoff team. What could derail a good season for this team?
Yeah, you want to start with me or?
Oh, sorry, Phil, go to you.
Basically, what we were talking about before. The young guys not stepping up is probably the biggest thing. And I include the 3 forwards. I include Keandre Miller and Igor in that. Nils Lundqvist, I'm not really going to include because I don't think they're going to ask a lot of him. I think if he gets onto the first power play unit at some point this season, I think that would be a miracle. So it's really Kakko, Lafreniere, Kravtsov, Miller, and Shesterkin. If those guys don't take the next steps in their development, I think the Rangers might be missing the playoffs. They might be looking on the outside in. And I think that might lead to some major changes in the following offseason. So
I would say to you, if Lundqvist is on the top power play unit, that might be a disaster because that means Adam Fox is injured or not effective or something like that. I think it all rests on Igor Shesterkin, whether or not it's going to be a good season or not. It's even though I said before Gallant's navigated through tough times with goaltenders, it's on Shesterkin. That's just what I think. Anthony.
Well, to be different from you guys, I would say a significant injury to Panarin or Shesterkin. If many of those guys are out long term, I mean that's a big problem.
All right. So finally, this is what we're going to set in stone and replay the tape at the end of the year. John, your season prediction for the New York Rangers.
I'm going to say 4th in the division, and I think they probably get knocked out in the first round of playoffs.
I'm going to go 3rd in the division, knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Anthony.
4th in the Metro and lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Out of curiosity, guys, since you got them both at 4, who are they losing to? Because that means they're playing a team from the Atlantic.
I would say they'd probably end up drawing Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay would kill them in a playoff series.
Tampa Bay and those New York teams. Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, because depending on that because 4 mean they're one of the last 2 wild cards. So yeah, I guess Tampa Bay.
I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to say the Florida Panthers. So
the Florida Panthers, I think, would still kill them in a playoff series too, especially.
Yes. Well, I know in your scenario, mine, they would probably lose to Carolina. So
yeah.
Guys, so that is our predictions for the New York Rangers season and all the things that we're focusing on in our preview. We're going to try to be a little bit faster to get to the Bar Talk segment in a moment. We're not doing honest press conferences today for that reason, but we want to know your thoughts. You're giving us some good ones in the comments. I will try not to click on a comment when Filk is trying to click on a comment, but anyway, so put it all down in the comments below, especially if you're watching this when we cut all this up. So now we got to go across the river, and we're going to talk, much to Anthony's delight, about the New York Islanders. Now, considering they have much less questions to answer, this should actually go a little bit faster. But before we even start this, tomorrow afternoon, we are touring UBS Arena. See a video on that coming soon, where you're going to see us highlighting what hopefully will be a good experience for not just Anthony, but for us to go see the Rangers when hopefully they dominate the Islanders over there as well. But although it hasn't been like that at the Barclays Center, thank God the Barclays Center is no more. So, Anthony, starting off, what do you like most about this team?
I mean, I like a lot about it, but I guess I'll just Barry Trotz and how, every year he has this team playing the same style of hockey. He has them come prepared from day one. Like I said, you all know what you're going to get from them. They all, I mean, to a certain extent, obviously Barzal's line plays different than the fourth line, but they all play the same style within that system. They all know what their jobs are. Well structured. It starts from Lou at the top, all the way down to Barry and the players. As Dan Rosen said, and you can talk about this a little bit when you start to talk to what you don't like. When he was with us last week, he's like, gotta be honest, he's like, I don't see much not to like about this team. And I love that about them. They're very deep. And, along with a couple other teams in the league, they're up there with a lot of people with, competing for a cup this year. So, but Barry Trotz, I love what he's done for this team.
Filk.
A lot of what Anthony said. It just, there's a lot of structure and depth, and Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz are the perfect combination for this team for that very reason. Lou Lamoriello runs his teams like George Steinbrenner ran the Yankees. There's no names on the back. You check your ego at the door, you get the F out. You have a great coach who's probably going to be regarded as one of the 10 best coaches ever when it's all said and done. A guy that comes in and absolutely demands the absolute best every night from his players, every shift, every battle, every detail is covered. Dots the I's, crosses the T's. He demands the absolute best from his players. They're a deep team. They have a great system. Even when the goaltenders are off, the system can help compensate for the goaltenders being off. If one of the defenders is off, the system will compensate for that too. They play hard every night. They're physical. They're in your face. They're an absolute pain in the ass to play against. So that's what I like about the Islanders. And I think, like I said, they're coming out on top in this division.
Well, you're supposed to save your prediction for the end, but thank you.
I know.
I got to go with that. This is one of the most difficult teams in the NHL to play against, and that's what I'm hoping the New York Rangers will also follow suit with. The Islanders just are consistent day in and day out, and they aren't like a box of chocolates. You know exactly what you're going to get, and you're going to get a whole lot of pain every time you go in there. And they are going to win the center matchup every single night. I've said that about them since last March, and there aren't many teams they'll lose the center matchup to. I don't know if there is a team that they lose the center matchup to.
Well, that's what Dan Rosen said, but he said, the Oilers have McDavid and Draisaitl, but who's their 3 and 4?
Exactly. That's where the thing is. Your drop off from 1 to 4 is a lot. Yeah, that's a little bit more of an, I don't want to use the word even playing because Barzal is a great player, but Brock Nelson, come on. So, Anthony, how do you assess the goaltenders?
Kind of talked about this a little bit in our group chat the other day when ESPN ranked their tandems and they had the Islanders at number 1. And whether you have them at 1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter. The point remains is they have their goaltending situations really good. You have Varlamov, who's been, even though I've chirped him a lot during the playoffs, he's had the propensity to let up some soft goals. But at the end of the day, his statistics are at the top of the league. He's steady, and he's been getting the job done. And then you add Ilya Sorokin to the mix, who I thought, for not having a real training camp last year and no preseason games, he adapted really well to the NHL. And as he got more comfortable, you saw how good he was against Pittsburgh. And I think the expectations for him this year are even higher. So regardless of which one's in goal, Varlamov, Sorokin, they're as steady as they come, and that's one of their strengths. So they couldn't be in a better spot there. I know we'll talk about the Varlamov injury maybe a little later when you talk about some other things. But right now, when they're both healthy as a number 1-2 duo, you can't really ask for anything better.
Filk.
Yeah, they're definitely one of the best tandems in the league. No doubt about that. The system absolutely helps them too, which is a boost to them. So when you have a really good tandem and you have a great system in front of them with the way that team plays, on most nights you're going to get quality goaltending. So you don't really have to worry about anything. And like you guys were talking about before, you know what you're going to get from the Islanders. You know what you're going to get from these two goaltenders. You're going to get solid play. And do they need to be Vezina caliber goalies to win? No, they don't. They don't have to be, and that's fine. And as an Islander fan, you should actually be happy about that because they could have an off night, and you're still probably going to win more times than not because the system helps. And that's the great part about having a great coach. So the goaltending, I'm not worried about it if I'm an Islander fan. That's probably the last of my worries if I'm an Islander fan.
I think the goaltending is set up to succeed very well, especially this year with the Olympics coming up. Varlamov is going to the Olympics. Shesterkin and Sorokin are not going to the Olympics. So it might be on Sorokin to carry the load the first 2 months. I've become a believer in Ilya Sorokin because of that win versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't think they get past Pittsburgh Penguins without Ilya Sorokin. So he's starting to fill the bill that Islander fans were telling me about for so long and how great this guy was. Can't wait to see the matchup for him versus Shesterkin for a lot of years. Yeah. Shannon, by the way, thank you. And also credit to Shannon who helped me write Bring On the Hockey Season. The singing, different story. That might not have been the best. It's not really my key.
Don't ever try out for American Idol.
I never will. Funny part is, I'm more of a baritone, so it's a little bit out of my key. All right. Does this team have the depth? I'll start this one for you, Anthony. Yes, they have the depth. Their forward group is one of the deepest in the league, and they're probably not going to dress Leo Komarov half the season. He was playing on their top line. That's what I'll be so bold to say because they have depth everywhere. My only question on their depth is their defense, and I'll get to that more later. Going to you, Anthony.
Yeah, depth 1 through 12, they're great. I mean, you have a situation where Richard Panik, barring an injury to Matt Martin to start the year, is not even he's going to be the 13th forward. And, on, I would say decent, 10 to 12 teams or so, Richard Panik's probably a, everyday fourth line player. So they got depth there. They got guys that could step in. It's not something I'm really concerned about. Yeah, you mentioned the D. That is true, but overall, their forward depth, they're good. I mean, they got the depth.
Well, that sums that one up. Filk.
The only question I literally have regarding depth for them is who's the other top four defenseman outside of Pelech, Pullock, and Mayfield. That's it. That's the only question I have. I think that should speak volumes about what my answer is.
Okay. So brings us to the next point. What is the player that you're keying on, Anthony, for this Islander team?
Oliver Wahlstrom. We saw what he did last year, the 12 goals in the 44 games, which is pretty good. We know the shot that he could bring. He's a useful tool in the power play there. He had a really, after, not really doing the best after he decided to go to Boston College and then turn pro. He was kind of up and down, but last year he kind of really started to develop into the player what everyone thought he could be. And now this is his chance to really take the ball and run with it. Trotz already said he's going to start with Palmieri on the top line with Lee and Barzal, but that's not an issue. He's going to play with Pajot, who's a very, very, very solid third line center, and Parise. He's going to get power play time, and his shot is just really good. So I think he's going to get every opportunity to succeed. And if he can, score 20, 22 goals, for the Islanders, that would be great. And he has the potential to do so. So I'm curious to see what type of year he has.
Filk?
Well, since my answer was just taken, I'm going to go with Scott Mayfield. I want to see how Scott Mayfield can carry that second pairing without someone like Nick Leddy with him. Because as much as I would harp on Nick Leddy over the years, Nick Leddy was still a decent top 4 defenseman, I will say. So I want to see how Scott Mayfield carries that pairing because he's going to be relied upon doing so. And I also want to see who plays with him. So Scott Mayfield's production, the way he plays and what he gives you on a nightly basis is going to be very important to the New York Islanders' success.
Since my answer was taken also by Anthony, I'm going to go with Zach Parise, because where is he going to fit on this team? We know there's a role for Zach Parise on this team. We know it's not on the second line because that's where you got the B line, which still sounds like a terrible nickname, but it's very obvious that's the one that's got to be. And so is he going to slot in on that top line with Barzal? And can he produce at a top line level? Or is he going to slide in more on the third line and produce like maybe 15 goals, chip that in, play well defensively? He could be a real difference maker. He's got something left. I just don't know what and how much. So we're going to see about that. So what player, Anthony, could be most critical to the team?
I mean, this is because they all play so well as a unit. I mean, I guess I would have to go ahead and say Matt Barzal. I mean, Matt Barzal, he's a guy that has elite skating ability, his edge work. He's a zone entry monster, his stick handling ability. And I think we can all agree if he was on any other team, he would produce more points. But, he's tried to become a more defensive player and really buy into Trotz's system. And there have been a lot of growing pains with him. Trotz isn't afraid to staple his ass to the bench if he makes a mistake. And he's talked about how he's matured over the years. But, if this is a guy that plays to the top ends of his ability, he really can make the Islanders that much more of a dangerous team. And, Lee being back, that big body in front of the net, and also Palmieri's not afraid to go to the net too, create some space for him. And Palmieri could shoot the puck pretty well, and then you have Lee causing havoc in front. That has the makings of what could be a really productive line. So if Barzal's buzzing more often than not, I mean, that's going to make the Islanders a much more dangerous team.
I do not have a specific player. I have an opening that hasn't been filled yet, really, that we don't know what we're going to get the answer.
Philip froze for a second.
And he froze.
Can you get it a second? Hopefully he gets there. All right. I was hoping. Oh, wait. Folks on Frozen.
Okay. Yeah. I guess the Wi-Fi must have gotten crappy here. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Don't worry. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
So what were you thinking?
It's the top 4 spot that hasn't been filled yet. It depends on what player goes there and what that defender gives them. Because right now we really don't have an inside track as to who that is, right? Is it Gustafsson?
Well, so right now, Chara has been stapled to Dobson, so they're definitely going to be a pair to start this season. So that the only thing left in flux, Filk, is who plays with Mayfield on the left side. Right now, it's either going to be Erik Gustafsson or I guess Robin Salo. I mean, Andy Green hasn't even played a preseason game yet, which I think to me he might actually be the 7th guy, which I'm fine with. But if I'm a betting man, I'm saying Erik Gustafsson. And like we talked about before, I think no one has issues with his offensive game. I mean, he has 4 assists so far in like the 3 games he's played. It's just how he's going to be defensively. But to answer your question, it seems like Chara, Dobson, Gustafsson, Mayfield.
Yeah.
Gustafsson doesn't exactly inspire many people.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of confidence in him in his own zone and even strength. As for the power play, he looks great on the power play at times. And like you said, he has points so far in the preseason, but it's really what he gives you in his own zone away from the puck at even strength. And that, to me, is going to be the most important thing, because if he's an anchor on that pairing and he drags Mayfield down, then that prohibits one of your three best defenders defensively, and it takes a lot away from him. So that could be an issue. So I'm going to say, I guess I'll say Gustafsson at this point if that's going to be the case.
I was hoping you were going to take one of my two guys that I had so I could figure it out. It's Adam Pelech. Adam Pelech gets injured. This team is in. I think they're in a lot of trouble if Adam Pelech gets injured.
Yeah,
he is that good defensively. And if my backup answer was going to be Pajot, because he's the matchup center that they love to use. He's their number. The Islanders have 3 matchup centers when you really think about it, because they'll roll out. I'm going to say in order, probably Pajot, Brock, and then Cizikas. Gee, that's a terrible lineup to throw as your matchups. But
that's a big advantage.
Yeah, a little bit. You think? It's sort of like when the Rangers had McDonough and Girardi, then it was Stahl and Strawman, and then it was Kevin Klein, and who gives a crap what the last one is.
John
they
Moore.
were able to match up consistently. That's why the teams in the mid-2010s were good. Back to the Islanders again. Pelech went down. We'll get to that in a second, Jamie.
Yeah.
So, Pelech went down in 2020, and the Islanders weren't that good. Pelech came back. They went to the conference finals. So I'm going to stick with Adam Pelech, because
that you can't go wrong with that. That's a good pick.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's Family Feud. Good answer. Good answer. Number 1, Adam Pelech.
Survey says.
Survey says. All right, Anthony, we got to know, what do you like least about this team?
Oh, the left side defense. I mean, and again, it's not like Dan Rosen said. There's no glaring issue. Every good team has some weaknesses, and this is the one on the Islanders. The good thing though is, because of the system that they play, they don't need like an absolute star on the second and third pairing on defense. Yeah, it would help, but their system helps ease the blow a little bit. But still, I definitely go there. Erik Gustafsson, I have no doubts in his ability to score. I mean, he's not going to do 60 points again, but if he makes the team, and because he's on a PTO, mind you, so if he signs a contract, I could see him being a 35-point guy with the right power play time. And then you have Chara on the left side, who's looked good in camp. We all know that he keeps in really great physical shape for a guy his age, but it's tough to have a 44-year-old. No, I might make Brady's. I get his age confused with Brady. He's 40, right?
42.
42. Okay. So to have
Chara, I think he's older than that, right?
I think he's only 42, because if I recall correctly, if you made him 43, he'd be the rotting corpse that's in the upper left.
I mean, the point stand though, they're left, but so to have a guy his age on the left side, and then a guy like Erik Gustafsson, who's not the best in his own zone.
Chara's 44.
He is okay. He
is 44. He's older than me.
I doubted myself.
Yep, he will be 45 in March.
Yeah. So to have that, that it's a little disconcerting, but I mean that's really the thing I like least about them. Other than that, I think they're everywhere else they're good.
Okay, Filk.
I'm gonna say the lack of a top flight goal scorer, which has really been the Islanders' big problem for the last however many years. My Uncle Chris is a diehard Islander fan, and he's been calling for them to get a legitimate top-line sniper since John Tavares was drafted. So, that's my biggest thing. And I know that won't be a problem during the regular season, because they're extremely deep at forward, and they play a hard-working game. And I know Barry Trotz stifles it a bit, but they lack a top-flight goal scorer, and that's really part of what they're going to need to get them over the hump past Tampa. So, to me, it's a top-flight sniper.
Since you gave me, since you went with that one, I'm gonna go with. Well, this is gonna be my answer anyway. It's a power play. Their power play is still middle of the pack to mediocre at best. And even when it looks good, it still kind of doesn't So if the Islanders, though, end up moving themselves into a top 10 power play, sky is the limit. Like, then they're dangerous. Then you got this hard checking team that you're afraid to take a penalty against, because that's one reason why, like, if you get a good power play, teams, not only are you afraid it's going to be in the back of the net because they're going on the power play, you're afraid to do something to avoid a penalty, which opens up some ice, and then they end up putting in the back of the net anyway. So that's why if the Islanders can find a way at the trade deadline, answering that question that was just on the screen below, they find a way to get Tarasenko. Ooh, that team gets
healthy,
really scary.
Yeah.
Then I might be paying up for my Stanley Cup bet that I made years ago with my friend John from All Things Islanders, whom we're touring the stadium with. Okay, Anthony, here you go. This is your moment to shine. Everything breaks right. How far will they go? How far can they go?
Their last 2 years conference finals. Last year, Game 7, lose 1-0 on a shorthanded goal. If everything breaks right, they can lift the cup over their heads. Anders Lee can get the cup from Bettman and then hoist it. That's it. It's just a matter of, one, staying healthy, which is the case for all teams, and playing that brand of Islander hockey, consistently as they've done in the last 2 years. If you look at their forward groups 1 through 12, I should say 1 through 9 because not the fourth line, but they have so many guys. Like Phil mentioned, they don't have that elite sniper, but they're guys in their top 9, with the exception of Josh Bailey, who usually around 11 goals. All of them probably going to score at least 20 goals. Pajot has done it before. Last year, 14 goals in 54 games. Palmieri, Nelson, Lee, Beuvillier, they could all score 20 goals. So Wahlstrom, Parise might fall short like 15, but the point is, they don't have that elite score, but they have a lot of guys in their team that could score at least 20, and that's pretty good. Not many teams can say, the top 3 in the top 3 lines, 7 out of those 9 guys are all going to be at least at 20. So they really have all the makings to really get to the Cup Finals again. It's just a matter of staying healthy and maybe avoiding the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think this is the year. They are an old team, but then again, they have young guys, Wahlstrom, Dobson, which we haven't spoke about yet. I think Dobson can really break out this year. But Sorokin, Barzal, Beuvillier, they're all young, but still, this is the year where I think this is really their chance to do it. So we'll see if they can, but I think that's the simple answer. If everything went right, they can win the Stanley Cup.
Filk?
I would say that this could be every Ranger fan's worst nightmare if everything breaks right. They win the cup. To me, if I'm an Islander fan, this feels like the Rangers in 14-15.
Yeah.
It feels like the pieces are finally getting into place. They have an answer or a question that needs to be answered, obviously, with Gustafsson or whoever else ends up in that other top 4 spot on defense. But what other areas are you really concerned about aside from not having the top flight sniper? I don't see anything, like Dan Rosen said. So for me, I think if everything goes right and in the playoffs they get the production that they were getting up and down the lineup and it continues against a team like Tampa, then they go all the way.
I'm going to have to gouge out my eyes at the end of the year if all this breaks right, because I need to make sure I can't see the Islanders lift that Stanley Cup. It is definitely a possibility. I don't want to admit it. I don't want to say it, but I am also someone that's covering this team now, so I'm also impartial, despite what all that memorabilia behind me says. The Islanders are definitely on the short list of teams in the preseason you could ever say they can go to the Stanley Cup and lift it. So there you go. But Anthony, what could derail a good season?
Well, I gotta say, their goaltending is one of their strengths. And again, I know stated before, this is obvious for a lot of teams, but if an injury to Ilya Sorokin or Semyon Varlamov happen, it could be bad. And this is what we'll talk about Varlamov. So Varlamov hasn't participated in training camp with the rest of the team. I'm not sure if he's skated on his own. I know Trotz referenced, he's working on it, and maybe that means like off ice, working out, riding bikes and stuff. He said it's something he's not concerned about, and it's more so just giving him the time now rather than rush him and then have him have to catch up during the season. He said you'd rather give that to him now, but no injury. All it said is soreness, no lower body, upper body, just soreness. I mean, we can assume that it probably has something to do with the injury that he had that kept him out of starting the series against Pittsburgh. I guess that's what it is, but I really don't know other than just soreness. So, but if he was out an extended period of time, now you're talking Corey Schneider as the backup goalie. And yeah, Corey Schneider shut out a Devil B team, but let's be real. He's not really an NHL caliber goalie anymore. So if Varlamov was out, that means there would be a Sorokin injury away from having Schneider as your goalie, and that would send it off the rails. Or even if Sorokin didn't get hurt, you don't want to burn him out. That means you're gonna have to use Corey Schneider a little bit more. So yeah, for me, it's easily this. But all signs point to Varlamov, being ready pretty close to the start of the year. Maybe he misses the first 3 games or so, but as Trotz said, he's not concerned about that because Sorokin's here. So, but long term, yeah, that would derail it.
Filk.
I'm going to go with what you said before, actually, Mark. An Adam Pelech injury. Adam Pelech is really the heart of that defense. And Ryan Pullock, I know everyone likes him because he's a good two-way guy, but Adam Pelech, for me, is a top 3 defender in terms of shutdown ability in this league. I say he's probably number 2 behind Jacob Slavin. I think that's the only one.
Jacob Slavin.
Yeah, Jacob Slavin's probably my number 1, but Adam Pelech is a very, very close number 2. Like, the gap between them is probably about that small in terms of defensive play. So, Adam Pelech, to me, if there's another injury to Adam Pelech and there's a serious injury and he's out for some time or he's out come playoff time, that's a big wrench because now everyone else in that defensive corps has to step up and start taking minutes from everyone else. Do you really trust Eric Gustafsson in the playoffs with more minutes at even strength with Adam Pelech down? I don't. I wouldn't if I'm an Islander fan. Do you trust Andy Green to come in after playing, 20 games during the regular season, then all of a sudden come in and be effective during the playoffs if he's your 7th defender? I don't know if I do at that point, and I don't know what Andy Green has left in the tank at that point. Do you expect a 44 going on 45-year-old Zdeno Chara to be able to withstand a full regular season and then an increase in minutes if there's an injury to Adam Pelech? I don't know if I do, and I don't know if I would as an Islander fan. So Adam Pelech to me is the key. I think he's even more crucial than if there's a Matt Barzal injury, because I think the center depth down the middle can help them if there's a Matt Barzal injury. But if there's an Adam Pelech injury, there's a big problem.
Well, you guys have 2 great answers. Also, because Anthony took mine and Filk, you echoed mine from before. So, pat myself on the back for a second. So now I got to be different.
Go ahead, do it. Yeah, do it. You know you want that.
I now, just to be different, I have to say, JG Pageau getting injured. That would be it for me. I would be worried about that. Because as much as it goes what we said before with the defenseman, somebody else that has to slot in there. Can Michael Del Cole, who is still on the team, right, Anthony?
Yeah, but I would imagine he'll be put on, unless he wins that 13th or 14th forward spot, he'll probably be waived.
Okay, so unless he's there for to fill in if a Pageau injury happens, I mean, I could see a couple guys that can maybe go in there, but then you're losing one of your matchup centers. And like we said before, the Islanders win the matchup, the center battle every single night because they'll go, I'll move Cizikas against this guy. I'll move Pageau against this guy. I'll move Brock Nelson against this guy. Even when they don't have the last change, they could still put a good center up against someone else's good centers.
And just to validate your point there, if you remember early on in the playoffs, he was looking like if the Islanders won it all, he would have been their Conn Smythe favorite. And then he played through it. He hurt his hand, and then you saw it in Tampa. He wasn't nearly effective against Tampa as he was earlier in the playoffs. And I mean, look what happened.
Yeah. And always whenever I talk about JG Peugeot, I always got to say screw you for the 2018 playoffs. 2017 playoffs. I'll never forget that 4-goal game he had against the Rangers. So in any event, since we're going to be waiting for Filk anyway. Oh no, he's back. Good. Doesn't really matter. It's going to you first anyway, Anthony. Season prediction. Go ahead.
Well, we stated a while ago in our Metro predictions. I predicted them to win the Metro, and you know what? I mean, this would break my heart, and maybe it's also a little bit of not wanting to jinx them and saying they're going to win it all. I say they go to the Stanley Cup Finals and they lose to Vegas or Colorado, and I'm crushed again for the third year in a row. But that's my prediction.
Filk.
I'm going to say they win the division. I think they get to the conference finals again and lose again. I don't know if they have enough still to beat Tampa, because I still think Tampa is going to make moves at the deadline. I think they're going to get depth pieces, and I'm not saying the Islanders won't, but I think Tampa, at the end of the day, the goaltending is always going to favor them, and I think the star power is really what wins in the playoffs. And that's part of why the Islanders haven't really gotten over the hump yet, because they're deep. They're very deep. But you still need those guys that take it to that very, very next level. And I love what I've seen from Anthony Beuvillier. As a Ranger fan, I hate playing against him because he seems to elevate his game every time the stakes get higher. But there need to be more guys on that Islanders team that can really do that. And I don't think that they have that number one top end talent that's really capable of doing that, as skilled as Matt Barzal is.
Oh, wait, hold on. And we're gonna close out with my prediction.
Did you guys lose my audio again?
No. We still got it. No.
Oh, all right.
No, we got everything. They're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't want it to happen, but it's going to happen. So why fight it? Why don't I just predict that they're going to make the Stanley Cup Finals? I could see them either losing in the second round this year, like having a setback, or being in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm going to lean towards the Stanley Cup Finals. Unfortunately, in this scenario, I'm going to say they're going to be second in the division because they're just not as good of a regular season team, say, as Carolina is, if Carolina is able to win the division. But in the scenario, that means they knock out the Rangers. So I really don't want that to happen, because if you match up my two predictions, that is where it's going. But we're going to want to know what you guys think. How far can the Islanders go? Can they be the team that represents the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals? Who is irreplaceable on their team? Put it all down in the comments below. We have a jam-packed show for you guys today. We have a humongous show, as Ilya would say. Humongous big, because we got bar talk to do, and let's go around the league with that. Oh, and Phil, this is still going to say ATR on there. I forgot to load up the new one.
I'm going to take a shot on this one.
I'm going to say beer. I'm buying everybody around on this. Oh, my God.
So, everybody, welcome to Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk, where we talk about NHL topics and we gauge them, our confidence in these NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Are you going to buy everybody around because you're so confident? I mean, you're really not that confident. I need a shot. You're a little bit depressed about it. Or, I'll just have a beer. So, guys, we're going to start with the first one. I alluded to this one in the Rangers preview, but Jesse Pullock of Edmonton is proof that fans need to be patient with Kakko. Mr. John Polkowski, start us off.
I mean, I get what you're getting at here. I'm going to say beer, just because I think fans needed to be patient with Kakko for other reasons, most notably the coach and his usage of him. But I guess if you want to point to an example, I guess I don't mind using Jussi Puljujarvi. I think Puljujarvi has become a good player. I don't think he's ever going to live up to his draft stature where he was taken, but he still can definitely be a good and very useful NHL player. I just think that Kakko, his problems were more so from the coaching and the usage of him and the way that the coach wanted to develop him, as opposed to developing his offense first and then teaching him defense as they go along. So I'm going to say beer.
I'm going to join you in that. I'm going to say beer too. I would love to say buy everybody around on this, but yes, David Quinn was one of the number one problems with Kaapo Kakko. But it just also shows that Puljujarvi's become a better player. And yes, he had hurdles to go through. I think he's 25 now, right?
Puljujarvi? No.
No, all right. He's a couple years older than Kakko, right?
No, he was the 2016 draft, so they're 5 years removed. So he's 23.
Okay, so there you go. And I probably should have looked that up before I opened up my mouth, but oh well. But you know something, he's finding his footing now. And one of the analysts for the Edmonton Oilers is saying he can imagine this guy being a 40-goal scorer in the league. Now, is that on his own, or is that because he's next to Connor McDavid, which a coat rack can score 40 goals with Connor McDavid? So but Kakko is developing. He's coming into his own. 21-year-old kid when January hits. So everybody, let's take a breath. Kakko is going to be good, but Puljujarvi is a good example of it at the same time. So it's just a beer. Anthony.
Yeah, beer as well. I mean, different situations with having Puljujarvi. Pool party requested to be traded, and then they didn't really accommodate it for it. He played overseas, came back, and he's been a better player, but it's not like what they did. He's not like a superstar now all of a sudden. Kakko played under a piss poor coach. A little bit different scenarios, but both Finnish, so I get it. But overall, though, I get where you're going with it, as Filk mentioned, but beer.
All right. So we're going to move on to the next one, and I need to make sure I have my notes on this one that I took down. But
we need the broom icon for that one.
But the Rangers' improved faceoff numbers will lead to more wins. And I'm going to start it by saying this is what I mean by the faceoff numbers. Just the preseason so far, 54% versus the Islanders, 56 versus the Bruins, 53 versus the Devils, 42 at the Bruins. One caveat out of that is they really had only Ryan Strome as their only real center and Morgan Barron as well trying to make the team. Other than that, I mean, there weren't many guys that were taking faceoffs. But this is the other thing to point out. Mika Zibanejad, notoriously bad at faceoffs. 63% versus the Islanders, 58% versus the Devils. Morgan Barron, the 3 games that he's played, 55, 71, 70, 67. And for everybody that always says faceoff numbers are overrated, faceoffs equal possessions. One of the most critical plays of the last decade for the New York Rangers was off a faceoff. So, yes, faceoffs translate to wins. Because I'll turn this over to Anthony right now. Do the Islanders worry about faceoffs? Of course they do. Those guys win faceoffs. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go beer. Obviously, faceoffs are very important. I think it's an underrated stat in the game. People that say don't matter don't really know the game well. Obviously, if you win the faceoff, you have possession of the puck, and if you have possession of the puck, chances are you're doing good things as opposed to not. So, definitely helps. But being good in the face-off circle doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to win the hockey game and, be this good elite team. So, but no, for sure, it is extremely important. And, if you had to pick, obviously you'd want to be proficient in face-offs rather than not. And it's good to see their improved face-off percentage during the preseason. Hopefully, they continue during the regular season when they're facing more, NHL centers who are more seasons at it. But overall, beer, and the statistic does matter a lot. But I'm not going to go ahead and say round though.
All right. By the way, I forgot to say I'm buying everybody around. So There it is right there. Mr. John Volkowski.
I'm with Anthony. Beer. It's
Okay.
not an overrated stat. I believe it's becoming a little underrated. It does equal possession, but it doesn't always equal wins. Because once you get that puck, it's a matter of what you do with it and how you handle it from there. So it'll help, but it's not a be-all, end-all. So I'm going to say beer.
All right. Moving on to going back to the Islanders for a minute. Semyon Varlamov's injury will enable Ilya Sorokin to take over as the team's number one goalie. Go ahead, Mr. Loracco.
Beer for sure. I mean, I would go round, but I know Trotz loves his veteran so much. So even if Varlamov comes back, you definitely give him a chance. But if Sorokin, starts the first, let's say 4 or 5 games of the year because Varlamov's not ready. This is a guy who hasn't played any preseason games yet and missed a lot of training camp. So, he'll need a little bit of time. So that's why I could see Sorokin taking the first, 3, 4, 5 games. But, if he plays really well and he plays up to his potential in those games, and then Varlamov comes back and, doesn't play as good or average, points matter earlier in the year. So I could see Trotz, giving the reins to Ilya for a little bit. So this is his chance. The door's open. I know a lot of people were saying it might be closer to 50-50 this year in terms of a split. But this is Sorokin's chance to maybe show, he's the guy as soon as this year, which is inevitable. It's definitely going to happen, but some question whether it happens next year. But this could maybe lead to Sorokin playing a little bit more than Varlamov if he earns it.
Mr. Volkowski.
I'm going to say beer, but leaning towards shot. And the only reason why I say that is because of the fact that I don't see it yet unless Sorokin absolutely blows them away in net in his absence. So I'm going to say beer here. I think it is technically possible, but to me, it's highly unlikely.
I'm going to make it a clean sweep, guys. It's beer. As much as I want to use the Wally Pip analogy right here, I can't help but also say Trotz is going to be loyal to Varlamov. He was their success story the last 2 seasons. He went back to Varlamov after he was not very good against Pittsburgh Penguins last year, and Sorokin basically was the reason why they got past the Pittsburgh Penguins. But also, Barry Trotz uses everybody on the roster. That's what Barry Trotz does. And very few guys know how to navigate that. He got a Stanley Cup out of Braden Holtby, who didn't start the first 2 games of the playoffs. So that season. So that's another one you kind of just can't believe. Okay, so they've been making noise in the preseason. We have to talk about them. But the New Jersey Devils will be the surprise team of the NHL. You know what? I'm going to say beer on this. I think they definitely can be. There's certain factors that you just look at them and you go, yeah, I'm not sure. Is Ryan Graves going to be a big factor? Filk will have a good laugh about that one later. Is Dougie Hamilton going to be able to carry this team? He was a plus 50 as a Carolina Hurricane. I doubt he's going to be a plus 50 as a New Jersey Devil. But, yeah, I mean, Jack Hughes takes another step. They got good centers over there. They go Heischer, Tartar, and Hughes.
Tatar's a winger.
Yeah. Oh, I thought he was a center again.
No, he's a winger.
Okay, well, shouldn't open up my mouth on that one, I guess. All right, John.
I'm going to say beer because there are elements there that because this is also a subjective term, surprise team. So that could be absolutely subjective. New Jersey could, but somebody else could say that another team surprised more than they did. I like their center depth at 1-2. I think Hughes is primed for a breakout. I like the addition of Hamilton. Hamilton's good, but he lacks defensively. And Ryan Graves, I don't like him in a top pairing role, especially, and he didn't do good with Cale Makar. And the drop-off defensively from Hamilton to Makar isn't a big drop-off. Hamilton's not that great defensively. And the Devil fans are going to see this sooner than later. So I would say that they can. I don't know if they are going to be the surprise team. Can they surprise? Yes. I don't know if they're going to be the biggest surprise, though. So, beer.
I really shouldn't have said Tatar was a center. Anthony?
I'm I mean, they're gonna be improved. But I'm actually gonna go a shot here. I think they're still gonna miss the playoffs. I think quite handily, despite being better. But I think Chicago is gonna surprise. I think they're gonna be the surprise team. I think they're going to be a lot better of a team. This is no knock on Jersey. They are, like I said, they are going to be improved. But to say they're going to be the surprise team in the NHL kind of implies, maybe they make the playoffs or this or that. But I don't really see it yet with them. So, shot.
All right. So now we're going to shift to go around the league right now, and. God, this saga. I just want this saga to end. The Calgary Flames will be a key team in the Jack Eichel saga. This comes from a statement Elliotte Friedman made this week. Anthony, we'll start with you.
Yeah, and I saw that Friedman tweet how they kind of, in the midst of it there for a while. And I have no reason to doubt him. He's one of the best. So I can't really sit there and say he's wrong. But realistically, I don't see them being the team that gets Eichel. Prospect wise, they don't have any really standout elite prospects. They have some younger guys. Sean Monahan, maybe some interest to Buffalo. Then you have, Elias Lindholm's a pretty good young scorer, but really, are they going to move him? Gaudreau's set to be an unrestricted free agent, so I don't think he has much value to Buffalo. Matthew Tkachuk could be a key piece. He's a good young player, but no. I don't really see them moving him. So I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. So despite what Elliotte says, and they were in it, I don't see them being players here for Eichel or ultimately ending up with them, I should say. So I'm going to say shot.
Filk.
Shot for the same reasons. And I believe it was Friedman himself that reported on the asking price for Matthew Tkachuk however many months back. And they said the asking price on him was, quote unquote, astronomical. That was the exact word used. So I don't see how Matthew Tkachuk will be available at all. Elias Lindholm is another one that I don't think would be available. So what assets does Calgary have to acquire Jack Eichel with? Matthew Coronado, a first-round pick, and what else? Valaki? Who else are they sending? They don't really have anything else to send. And everybody's talking about, the Rangers, all their prospects are untouchable. Even their next level down players like your Kravtsovs and so on, they're still miles better than anything Calgary has right now to offer. So I don't see it. I'm saying shot, and I'd be surprised if they were back in it again, because Sean Monahan is going to have no interest to Buffalo. He has, I think, 2 years left on his deal, including this one. And I don't see how he would have any interest to a Buffalo team, especially with the 2 or 3 down years in a row that he's had. So, shot.
Let's make it a queen. Just did it again. Let's make it a clean sweep again. It's a shot. It's definitely a shot. It's there's no way. You guys outlined the prospects. Let's go from the Calgary side. They got less than $1 million worth of cap space. How the hell are you fitting a $10 million player in there?
You have to send salary
Buffalo
back.
retaining. That ain't happening.
And then Buffalo might have to retain in a deal if that situation arises, because remember, Buffalo's got to stay above the salary floor. They're probably about, I think, $4 million or so from it. So they have to take back a significant amount of salary in any deal that they make.
If they were taking back any salary, Jack Eichel would have been gone by now. And again, this is definitely nothing against Elliotte Friedman. He's one of the best in the business. And it's just, I just don't see it. I would love to find a way that it could happen. I don't think it's going to happen. So we're going to move on. The next one, Spencer Knight will be the Panthers' #1 goalie by Thanksgiving. John, start with you.
I'm going to say beer. I could be only because of the fact that I think that Sergei Bobrovsky rebounds this year. They're going to have a better team in front of him. The defense is going to be healthy. I know Yandel's gone, but they're going to have a healthy roster in front of him. Mackenzie Weegar has turned into one of the better defenders in the entire NHL. Aaron Ekblad will be back. Like I said, I know Yandel's gone, but they're going to have bodies that'll come in and play good defense in front of them. Anton Lundell, I think, will be over. I think that they're going to have you want to talk about deep forward groups? Florida's forward group is one of the absolute deepest in the entire NHL right now. We talked about Tampa's, and Tampa lost basically their entire third line with Goodrow, Coleman, and Gord. Florida might have the deepest forward group in the entire NHL if it's not for maybe, I would say, Carolina and the Islanders. I think those are the 3 deepest forward groups in the NHL right now. So I don't see Bobrovsky having another year that bad to the point where Spencer Knight takes over the job, but it's more than possible that in his time, in his games, that he shows them that they have to move Bobrovsky sooner than later somehow. So I'm going to say beer.
Anthony.
I'm going to go beer. Bobrovsky could be pretty inconsistent up and down. The Panthers probably to them have cup aspirations or at least challenge to win the division. So Bobrovsky is being sometimes his erratic, inconsistent self, and then Spencer Knight's coming in and playing poised and winning games. He might force their hand to give Knight more of a share in goal, but I do think, like Filk said, Bobrovsky probably will be better. So that will probably be enough to hold off Knight for now. But, I mean, the writing's on the wall here. Spencer Knight's they're going to be their future #1 goalie. They're going to probably kick themselves for being locked into that contract for Bobrovsky. It's not good. And it's going to be really when it comes down to it, if they decide to have to move him, that's going to be really hard to move him at his price tag and age. I mean, I don't know how they'll pull that off, but I think sooner than later they're going to have to make that decision.
You know what? I'm going to go shot. I really like Spencer Knight, and I really think he's definitely going to be the #1 goalie eventually. And maybe not this season. Maybe not really before Thanksgiving. Outside chance by Easter, I would say. But they're going to give Bobrovsky another shot. Now, he did sort of lose his #1 job to Drager last year, but it's yeah, I gotta go with the shot on this one. Marc-Andre Fleury will keep the Blackhawks in playoff contention this season. I'll start this one, guys. Shot. I really like Marc-Andre Fleury, despite how much absolute crap I talk about him, especially in the last 6 years. But he's the reigning Vezina Trophy winner. But you're going from Vegas, who was a stout defensive team with great structure, to the Chicago Blackhawks and their amoeba style of play that Jeremy Colleton plays, and it's like a shooting gallery every single night. God help the goalies that are in there. I don't think he alone could keep that going. They got Seth Jones now. That's good, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. And that division is very tough. So I went shot. Oh, Anthony.
I'm gonna go opposite here, my friend.
All right.
I'm gonna say Round, the reigning Vezina Trophy at his age. He's still got the goods in goal. Seth Jones is there on defense. He's there with his brother Caleb, some family ties there. The defense as a whole, it's not the best, but I think Seth Jones goes a long way in stabilizing that. And then you also have Captain Sirius back in the lineup. He will help out. So there'll be a better team. Kirby Dox had an injury-riddled year. He's another year older. I think he's going to obviously chip in for them. Patty Kane's still playing at a high level. And then you have guys like Kurashev who had a really strong rookie year. Dominic Kubalik Kubalik is going to really developing to a really good goal scorer for them. Brendan Hagel, the rookie, also had a good year last year. They get these guys. They feel like they always have plucked these guys out of nowhere that have come in and contributed. So I think they're going to be a better team. And then obviously Fleury's kind of the icing on the cake there in goal, because I know Lankinen was pretty good at times, but this is a cup winning guy in Fleury. Just has that calmness about him. Sometimes you see him smiling behind his mask. I think that goes a long way with the young guys on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And more important, like I just said, I think he has a lot left in the tank. So, round.
All right, Filk.
I was initially going to say shot, but I was thinking about this and the way that you worded it, and I thought more about it as the both of you guys are speaking. And I'm actually going to say round, because you're not saying that he is the reason, but you're saying he's one of them, and I totally agree with that. Because that top four unit in Chicago, that defense corps is not good. It's Seth Jones, and then you have Connor Murphy, Jake McCabe, and Calvin DeHaan. Are you really expecting good top 4 minutes out of those three? Listen, Connor Murphy's good. Connor Murphy's solid. But if Connor Murphy is anything more than a number 4, you have some problems on defense. And same for Jake McCabe. Jake McCabe is probably a good number 5, maybe a number 4. And DeHaan, he's been an injury case ever since the Islanders drafted him when he was playing in junior. He had shoulder problems then, shoulder problems on the island. I mean, he seems to almost never stay healthy. So I really wonder about their defensive depth. But Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be part of the reason why that the Blackhawks stay in playoff contention. That forward group is really going to help them too. You look at that roster up and down at forwards. Taves coming back. Kane is still Kane. Then you have Dylan Strome, who could rebound, especially with the loaded talent that they have around them up forward. They brought in Tyler Johnson. Yes, I know Tyler Johnson is not going to be the 2015, 2016 Tyler Johnson yet. You don't need him to be. Then, Anthony talked about Brandon Hagel before. You have Dominic Kubalik, who could still end up being a 30-goal scorer, 50-plus point guy there. You have guys up and down that line of Kirby Dach taking the next step, which I think could happen. Anthony mentioned Filip Kurashev. I mean, Jujhar Khaira brought in for fourth-line minutes, and that's another thing that Chicago had trouble with, is bottom 6 depth last year and in previous years. They lacked depth. Now it looks like they have more of a complete forward group. I think that forward group is very good. I think they're going to be an underrated group. I think they're going to surprise people. So between them and Fleury, I think those two things can help keep the Blackhawks in a playoff race. I don't think they get a spot, but they can definitely keep them in a playoff race up until a later part of the season.
As you mentioned, Caleb Jones, I came back to the thought when the Edmonton originally traded him, and the thought was, hey, we at least have your brother come play for us. I was like, that sounds more like a hostage negotiation than a recruitment. So,
Yeah.
All right. So Cole Caulfield will score more goals than Kirill Kaprizov. John?
Ooh. I like this one. This one's interesting because it actually really makes you think. I'm going to say beer, but I'm leaning towards shot. Just because I think Kirill Kaprizov has the potential to put 40 up this year, because he was on pace for 40 last year. And he's only a year more experience. He's going to have even more chemistry with Matt Zuccarello and Rask. And that line is one of the better lines in the entire NHL. Kirill Kaprizov, Kirill the Thrill, they call him that for a reason. So I'm going to say shot. You know what? I think Kaprizov gets 30, 35. I think maybe even close to 40. I think Caulfield goes somewhere between 25 and 30.
Anthony?
Beer. But I was close to doing shot, but I'm going to give Caulfield his due. Goal Caulfield, they call him for a reason. The guy's got a really, for a small guy, he's got a really good shot, and he's got he's got really quick hands. So that's not a knock on him, but I just think Kaprizov's that good. I would do bad things to have him on my team. He's
I got real dark real quick.
Yeah, and not only can he score, but Kaprizov's a pretty good playmaker too, and he's just got that Panarin-esque dynamic to him. He's fast, shifty, and this is a guy that I think he's the guy that some fans thought Nikita Gusev was going to be. Like Kaprizov is that good. He's people got it wrong on him. But to be fair, Gusev had a couple, I think he had like an 80-something point year in the KHL one year, and I understand why people thought he was going to be really good. But Kaprizov is that good. He's the real deal. We saw it last year. Wild fans could breathe a sigh of relief that they have him locked up. But I think Kaprizov's going to outscore Caulfield, but Caulfield's is gonna battle for the Calder Trophy, no doubt.
Yeah.
Once again, to quote Letterkenny after Anthony said it, to be fair. So, something, I'm going to say shot on this. And there is history of guys, especially first-round guys, that come in from the NCAA, do well, and then kind of get there in the playoffs specifically, and then get their first taste of regular season, and it doesn't work out so well.
Fan club over there.
Chris Kreider is the guy that I'm pointing to. He went from 6 goals in the 2012 playoffs to 3, I believe, in 2013 in that half season.
Ankle injury.
That has to do with the coaching. Part of that has to do with his own play, and
Ankle
also
injury.
part of that. Yeah, there's so many factors that go in there. Caulfield's going to be on the top line, we think, with Suzuki.
He will be.
And
So maybe 20, 25. I mean, that's not unreasonable to say that for an elite rookie.
Yep.
On the other hand, Kirill Kaprizov, I'm with Filk. He's going to score 40. So
yeah, he's all sorts of ridiculous. And one other little side note I'll say, just because I brought his name up before and we're talking about the team, is Matt Zuccarello just has such an uncanny tendency to be able to play with high-skilled players and not look out of place at all. He could fit with anybody you could throw him with.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's why Ranger fans, we always loved Matt Zuccarello. And he really, it took him almost 2 full seasons to realize his full potential. He really started coming into his own the final month of the 2013 season when the Rangers acquired Derek Brassard. And then after that, and then the playoffs that year.
Yeah.
This one, we could say, is a John Volkowski special, even though I know he didn't write it. Someone else besides Connor McDavid, who will go in my draft as number 1 when I pick him in about 4.5 hours, will win the Art Ross Trophy. John?
You guys trying to troll me? Like, really? Is that the point of this? Because we know McJesus is winning the Art Ross Trophy. He's going to win another. He's going to win it. He's going to win it by, I would say, a considerable amount, especially after the season he just had last year. The only 2 players that stand an even remote chance of taking that scoring trophy from him, provided he doesn't get injured, I should say, are Leon Draisaitl and Nathan McKinnon. And that's it. So I'm going to say shot. And good luck finding me the next coming of Jesus on a hockey rink that can do what Connor McDavid does, because Connor McDavid is going to further cement himself towards a Hall of Fame and possibly top 5 player of all time resume this season with adding another Art Ross Trophy.
I'm going to jump in ahead of this one, Anthony, only to say the word shot. But technically speaking, if Filk wants to do that, I have to use this one because the other one is on not visible. But if Filk wants to use the term Jesus, technically every single hockey player walks on water. So it's just something I can't actually, and they tend to run on water. So it's just there's
Connor
no
McDavid
way.
doesn't
McDavid,
run
if
or
McDavid's
walk
healthy,
on
it's
water.
McDavid.
He doesn't run or walk on water. He flies on it. He glides on it.
Anthony.
This is no offense to Draisaitl and McKinnon because they're outstanding players, but it's shot. I mean, McDavid, the guy scored, over 100 points in 56 games this year. I shudder to think what he's going to do this year in a full 82, but I don't see it. I don't see unless McDavid got hurt and missed significant time. I just don't see it happening.
The CCM stands for Connor McDavid. That's what it should stand for. It does not stand for that, but since he is a CCM guy, head to toe, all of his equipment, it should stand for Connor McDavid.
All right, guys. And I don't know if you were able to watch some of it, but TNT had their first hockey game this week. And Kenny Albert was on it, Brian Boucher and Keith Jones, who we interviewed 2 weeks ago. But ESPN's hockey coverage will grow the game further. Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, Round. It's an outlet that never traditionally carried hockey, so probably get more views on the sport. And also, don't forget about ESPN. I think that's going to do wonders for the league too. But having a TNT coverage, TNT plays, has a lot of wrestling on it. I believe NBA games, so maybe you get some NBA fans that maybe catch a hockey game and really see their eyes on it and start to gain interest in the league that previously didn't. So it's a great thing for the league. I think they have a lot of personalities on that broadcast to make it fun. Brendan Burke's going to be one of the play-by-play guys on this outlet, and he's one of the best. I think they picked a good crew. And I think there's no question that it's going to help grow the game of hockey.
Filk.
Oh, Round. I'm buying everybody's beers. What are you guys drinking? Because I'm buying for everybody. I'm buying for everybody in the comment section too. So this is great to have hockey on another big time major network. And as a wrestling fan that watches AEW, that will be watching AEW later on tonight at 8 p.m. on TNT, AEW Dynamite on Wednesdays. They will now be moved to TBS because of the NHL. And I don't mind that at all as a wrestling and hockey fan. So give me more wrestling and hockey. And you know me, I'm the one that bridges the two together on this channel as much as I possibly can. So, I'm buying everybody's rounds on this, and I can't wait to see their coverage. Like Anthony said, my idol is a part of that crew. I cannot wait to see Wayne Gretzky. I know everybody says, oh, the guy has a personality of dry cardboard. You know what? Put him in front of a camera and let him talk and let people sit there in astonishment at the knowledge that he can drop here and there. And you know what? He may have the personality, that type of very dry personality, but he will still amaze and astonish people, and he will still bring viewers in because he's Wayne friggin' Gretzky. He is God.
I'm going to buy everybody around on this too. There's so many reasons that I'm going to say with that. I like their play-by-play and their analysts that they got lined up. NBC did a good job, I thought.
They did.
Let me just say that. I thought NBC still did a good job. Except for, of course, hiding the Senators and the Buffalo Sabres in 2007.
And promoting the game.
And promoting it. They didn't promote it enough, and especially on a network that has the number one program every single week or the year in Sunday Night Football. That being said, I think it was just the first broadcast, but TNT will definitely show their personality, and they still got two secret weapons to unleash on the NHL fans because I'm telling you guys, I've said this before, I'll say it again. My dream scenario is Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley as guest analysts. I salivate at that idea, either for Barkley to come around and just say they were terrible, or Shaq to just go full Shaq, however you want to say it.
Can I get an Alex Goldberg? That's terrible.
That's terrible. and again, the NHL has a chance to show off their personality with their guys, and there's plenty of it. They didn't let Jeremy Roenick let loose. TNT is the one I think that can actually let loose. Yeah. ESPN's gonna still kind of stay more towards the middle. TNT, they can actually just let her rip. Yeah. All right, so Wayne freaking Gretzky, that's right. And by the way, another thing about Wayne Gretzky is really like, oh, he's got the personality of, what'd you say before, sandpaper?
It was dry cardboard.
Dry cardboard. No, he just says a lot of nice things. That's what Wayne Gretzky does. Wayne Gretzky isn't one to take a controversial
He's
thing.
not Jeremy Roenick. Don't expect him to be Jeremy Roenick, and he doesn't have to be Jeremy Roenick. What he has to do is just sit there and talk and drop knowledge, and people are going to come to the TV anyway because that's who he is. He's the man. He is God. He's the greatest athlete ever, most dominant.
Well, guys, what do you think about all these topics that we have on here? Do you think face-offs are going to equal wins? Do you think Pullock is a great example for Ranger fans to be patient on Kaapo Kakko? Do you think Sorokin is going to be the Islanders' number one goaltender? Do you think Spencer Knight is going to become the number one goaltender of the Florida Panthers? Can the Jack Eichel saga ever end? Put it all down in the comments below. We love hearing from you because that's what we love to do. And yes, during the season, we're going to actually do more of these shows all the time. We're running at about 2 hours. So I actually have an editorial that I'll go first. I'll let you guys decide whether or not you want to jump in on this. But it's time for an episode of On the Mark. As soon as I could find it. This prediction that's right up here.
Being single most of my life.
Or just yell at Larry Brooks like every other year. Anybody else pick up an echo on that?
I think a tiny bit.
Okay, well, it doesn't really matter. When I edit it, it's going to be a little bit different. But, okay, look, I understand don't make opinions based off the internet. And I understand just a tweet is a tweet. That's about it. But oh my God, Pavel Buchnevich scored for the St. Louis Blues, and I saw so many people going, "I'm not going to cry about this. I'm not going to cry. I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch." Shut the hell up! Really? Is everybody now a fan favorite? I mean, I remember when the Rangers lost Colin Blackwell in the expansion draft. That there were people saying, "Oh, well, the Rangers. Colin Blackwell was a real good player. He played he scored 12 goals." I want to say he played 27 games, but I'm not even sure if that's enough. 12 goals. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, Daniel Gano had about the same numbers in his career as a New York Ranger, and 10 of that was in one season. So did that mean that he was the big guy that was the one that got away too? He never did anything else with the rest of his career. So it's just, and again, I like Pavel Buchnevich, and it's just, I made this call from last year. The Rangers were in a situation, salary cap wise and development wise, where Pavel Buchnevich was probably going to have to go. You weren't going to keep Lafreniere, Kakko, and Kravtsov on the third and fourth lines forever. What are we going to do? Buchnevich really had one good season that made us all go, wow, this guy is really finally arrived, and he's really doing it. But instead, and you know what? He's deserving of admiration, but not so much to the point of, and again, I had that same reaction. I still don't like Glenn Anderson because Mike Gartner was my guy. He was at least a Ranger for 5 years, made the All-Star game, and in 2 of those seasons, just 2 of them combined, he had more goals than Pavel Buchnevich in his career as a New York Ranger. So can we all just take a grip? Because at the same time that I'm seeing fans that all want to go, Oh, I'm so sorry Booch is gone. You're killing Chris Kreider, and he's been on this team for 8 years, 9 years. And he's done a lot more. Did Buchnevich score a goal to stave off elimination? Did Buchnevich? I mean, and again, I understand the disappointment of Chris Kreider, but you know what? Game 5 and Game 6 versus the Capitals. There you go. He has an overtime goal to his win. Okay, to his credit. Buch doesn't have those memories. He was inserted into the lineup in 2017 and to kind of help them get past the Montreal Canadiens, but that was about it. I mean, again, I like Pavel Buchnevich. I wish him nothing but the best in St. Louis. And if there was no Lafreniere, no Kravtsov, and yeah, Kreider didn't sign the contract, but just come on, guys. Is everybody going to be a fan favorite now? Are we gonna have a video tribute for Colin Blackwell when he comes back, showing how he got empty net goals and tip-ins because he was playing with Panarin last year? Come on. If I'm being off base, guys, throw it in the comments below.
No.
It's just not everybody's a fan favorite anymore.
What?
Come on. That would be like if Anthony, can you name a New York Islander that was hot for like a week that you're like, oh, hey, this guy's going to be great, and then you heard nothing from him the rest of his career?
I mean, last one I could think of is probably like
Mark Parrish?
Who?
Pia Parento?
Mark Parrish?
Mark Parrish, I think, was a better player than that. But I mean,
yeah,
but
what I'm saying is Mark Parrish had that ridiculous October 2001. And he had the 2001-2002 season where he had 30 goals because of that ridiculous start. And he was never the same player ever again. And then, I think that would be like the one guy I could think of where I'm like, okay, like he's a good player, but he's not a great player. And I remember Islander fans kind of taking that loss kind of hard,
Brett Howden Knight, a real tearjerker. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just, guys, just everybody can't be a fan favorite.
Yeah, I get you. I get your point. I mean, I guess with Buchnevich is a lot of the trade didn't really make a lot of people happy. So I think that heightens the whole sensitivity to like whenever they see Buchnevich do something good with St. Louis now, they're going to lose their minds and stuff. But
yeah,
I
get that. What was it this past week or was it the week before where I had the rant about the bar being set low? I think it was last week. Right?
It was. I think it was last week where the bar was set low. By the way, just to address this, Rich, you're right. I do it for the show, but I also wear my fandom on my sleeve too. So
yeah, like I see that's the thing, and I know we talked about the.
Sorry, I was clicking this one. Molson was an Islander player that disappeared afterwards.
But that's the thing, though. You like, and that's why I said what I said, because a lot of these fans they're crying over Colin Blackwell, and they're crying over like, and I get it. Matt Zuccarello was a little worse because Matt Zuccarello actually played very well for this team for an extended period of time. I mean, you look at it: 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Zuccarello and he was there for longer, but he had 6 pretty good seasons with the Rangers. And I don't like the Buchnevich trade either. I ripped them for that. And I still think it's a bad trade. But the way that the fans are acting is like the sky is falling. Like, could you imagine how social media, Ranger social media would have been had they been around for the Brian Leetch trade, when Brian Leetch was traded?
Oh, my goodness.
Or when Marc Messier was let go to Vancouver in 1997. Or here's a better one, because this would have really made every Ranger fan online irate. When they traded Adam Graves to San Jose after a season in which his father and son died in the same week in the 2001 season. Like, how would these fans have reacted back then? And then it's funny because the same fans that, some of them, I should say, not all of them, but some of the same fans who were blasting Pavel Buchnevich and talking all this crap about Sammy Blais all of a sudden turn around and like, oh, Sammy Blais, now he looks like he's a pretty good player because he could score a goal in front and then score in a shootout like that. Like,
and
also, you didn't even give this guy a chance, and now all of a sudden you're flip flopping on him because of a preseason game. Like,
and also going back in if you go back through our videos, the Buchnevich one actually got a lot of views. And it originally started where I was trying to piece together why they got so little for Buchnevich. And again, Sammy Blais, I like Sammy Blais. I've liked Sammy Blais all along. Moving on from that, when we had Marty Biron come on, Marty Biron was the guy that said, look, you're going to get less for a restricted free agent because you have to sign the player. That puts it all into perspective. So you're not getting Jack Eichel for the rights to Pavel Buchnevich, for instance.
No.
But it's just, and apparently, I think Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony, I think had to back out or something.
Oh no, it's, we're starting to get to 6:30 right now, and we're probably going to go about another 20 minutes at the most. But again, it's just look again. It's great to have favorite players. Alexei Kovalev was traded away and then traded back to the Rangers and then traded away again. So he's another one that you look over and go, oh, it's great. But I mean, I see some of these things online where guys are like, my Booch. Well, guess what? Players have to go sooner or later. I know there's going to be a day Chris Kreider leaves the New York Rangers. I had to watch Ryan Callahan with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I had to watch Brian Leetch return as a Boston Bruin. I mean, and obviously, we all sat through Messier, and I was at Grays' return, by the way, when he came back with the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah,
and he had a goal. So
the reactions to these things just make me just, like I said, leads me to believe that the bar is set very, very, very low. And that's why when I laugh when people say stupid things like Messier was overrated. Like, are you kidding me? Stop it. So,
thank you, by the way.
Yeah,
always. But by the way, Johnny Red brought up the ultimate fan tribute of all time, which is Eddie Jockerman.
Eddie Jockerman, yeah.
Eddie Jockerman. There was no social media. There was a 5-day turnaround between him being acquired by the Detroit Red Wings and then being the New York Rangers. Playing against the New York Rangers, it's just, look, the Garden crowd, and again, once a Ranger, always a Ranger, somewhat that follows. I mean, nobody's really reflecting. Yeah, Joe, you're right about that. And
I remember that too. Yeah, it's just.
And Oscar Lindbergh did nothing with the rest of his career.
Yeah,
but yeah, he could have signed him to a bridge deal. You're right about that. But even at that, if you have Buchnevich on the team, what are you doing with Kravtsov? What are you doing with Lafreniere? What are you doing? And I just totally Frenched out his name again. What are you doing with Kaapo Kakko? These guys need to grow. A plan.
Here's the problem though, and I'll say it again. The Chris Kreider extension is the reason why Pavel Buchnevich is not here. That's it. That's what it comes down to. Because if Chris Kreider's not there, Pavel Buchnevich is your first line right winger with Alexis Lafreniere on your second on your top line left wing with Mika Zibanejad. Your second line is Panarin, Strome, and Kakko or Kravtsov. And then your third line looks like Chytil, Gaudreau, and Kravtsov there, I would say, or Kakko, whichever one ends up slotting into that role.
My question will be, is there enough sandpaper on that in that lineup? I don't know.
My question is there enough sandpaper from Chris Kreider on a night-to-night basis?
Unfortunately, that's one of the criticisms I can't argue with.
No,
by the way,
that's the problem.
And Johnny's right about this. They cheered the whole game for Detroit to win, and anytime Eddie made a save, but they also booed when the Rangers scored on Eddie. I believe it was Walter Tkachuk that scored on Eddie and turned around and went, what the hell? I mean, and again, you know what, Matt? You're right about this one too. Cam Talbot. There are Ranger fans that sounded like we traded away John Van Beesbrook.
No, I don't. I remember the fans being annoyed at not getting enough for him, which I get it.
I'm in agreement with that.
I get it. They didn't play that situation right. That was, I believe, Sather's last real folly, if you will. They kind of overplayed their hand on that, and that was it. But yeah, I remember the fans were annoyed with that. And I'm totally fine with that because they didn't get enough. They could have played that more, considering that he had a year left on his contract. But they totally overplayed their hand and misplayed the market.
Yeah. And again, look, when I'm making this critique, I'm not making a critique against Pavel Buchnevich. I'm just saying, guys, there are players that have done much more for the New York Rangers over the last, we'll go with the last 10 years. Did anybody cry when we lost Derek Brassard? Derek Brassard went on to Ottawa and even scored a goal against the Rangers, a key goal in the 2017 playoffs. And fans were still not thinking, oh my God, Derek Brassard. And since then, he's gone on mixed reviews from when he's gone on and done after that.
I mean, I don't know. It just, I'm not going to sit here and continue to slam Ranger fans for these overreactions.
I'm not slamming Ranger fans. I'm just saying. And by the way, the worst part is the viewer retention is going to be way down on this. And everybody's going to see me slamming Ranger fans and not realizing, no, it's just again, let's not set the bar so low for fan favorites. Because
I agree with you. It's a different time though. That's the problem. I honestly, I think the next wave of players is going to be the ones where we really get the fan favorites. Your Lafrenieres, your Kakkos, your Foxes, your Panarin, obviously. I mean, those are the guys that you're really gonna make a big deal about when they start to leave. So yeah. But let's move on and take some Q&A here, because I know you wanted to go for like maybe another 20 minutes, but we just took up, I would say, probably close to 10 minutes right there with that.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. By the way, am I wrong about fan favorites? Throw it down in the comments below. And also, by the way, there's one guy that scored 50 points that nobody cares about is going to be making his return to the Garden this year with another sweater on. So I'll just leave it at that social media kind of doesn't talk fondly about him. So, yeah, let's take some questions, guys, because we got about 10, 15 minutes because the game is coming on in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Is Jones making the team over Nils? No. I don't think there's a chance of that. Dan Rosen was on with us last week, basically saying the same thing. I agree with Dan. I don't think there's a chance. That's a left side thing. Nils and Jones are left and right side defenders. So big blue shirts. No, my friend. No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I got to go with that one too. I still think you're getting your top prospect over here. You're playing him. You're not just going to stick him on the fourth line with Brett Howden. Kravtsov. And
I like that. I like that.
Come on. You're going to play him, by the way.
I'm gonna just address a comment before we go forward, because I saw a couple of good ones down there, but I want to get back to this one. Yeah, and not only that, Matthew, but they also got Ryan Strome out of it because they traded Ryan Spooner for Ryan Strome. So just remember that.
I didn't even think about that for a second.
Yeah. Mark, I think you might be looking at the same one that I have, but I'm going to pull this one up. Will Barron be the first call up from? Yeah. And yes, AZ, he probably will be.
I wouldn't be surprised if Barron ends up being like one of the extra forwards to play fourth line center.
Yeah.
Like right away.
I think they'll stick him in Hartford, though, because they would rather him play top minutes than play as a 13th forward. And I think that's fair. I think that's smart, too. This one, not so related to hockey.
See, this is the good thing about letting you do it, because you know exactly where my eyes are going, I think.
No, just this seems like every place, though, Rich. Every place with these $15 beers. It's ridiculous. It's like they almost don't want you to drink at games.
Yeah.
Like, okay, So then I'll just get loaded in the parking lot beforehand. Thanks.
Yeah, then it becomes football.
Yeah,
Nice.
basically.
Everybody gets loaded in the parking lot and then goes on in. Yes, Jeff Gorton for Zibanejad was a steal, and we do know what Zibanejad's potential was, and also later on in the year, I talked about the Buchnevich being inserted into the lineup versus the Montreal Canadiens, and Zibanejad having the OT winner in Game 5 of that series.
Yeah.
But
the Chris Kreider attempted pass that somehow got to him anyway, despite being deflected.
that still counts.
I know it counts. Yeah, I know it counts, but I just had to point that out. Do we think that they package Jones, Keandre, and Chytil for first? I would move Keandre Miller. And the reason why I would move Keandre Miller is because I don't know if he ever truly gets the position of defense down. And if he does, could he turn into something like Brent Burns where he can go back and forth between forward and defense and he's a huge threat? Sure. But it could also go the other way and he ends up being a disaster on defense and just doesn't, do anything. I would hold on to Jones because I know Jones can run a power play. I don't think Miller will ever really run a power play. I really don't. I think Chytil is definitely a candidate to be moved. I definitely think a first-round pick obviously is going to be in there. But yeah, I don't like the idea of moving Jones over Miller.
yeah, Matthew's 100% right on that one, by the way. Gorton trades are either really good or a complete miss. We're going to find out very soon if the Ryan McDonough trade is a complete miss, which is weird when you talk about that there were 4 players in that trade because it was, and this is the one that he was talking about, Matt was. There were 4 players in that trade: Vlad Nemestikov, Brett Howden, Lieber Hayek, and a first-round pick. The first-round pick, they ended up trading up a second-round pick in order to the first-round pick of that one was Nils Lundqvist.
Yeah,
it was the trade that they traded up and got Keandre Miller. But and by the way, tailgating before games is great. So
I would love to be able to do that, but you can't really do that at the Garden as a Ranger fan because there's really nowhere to park.
Right. So what you do? You go to the neighboring bars. We did that ourselves. Yeah. We were at Stout when we did our thing. Yeah. And we went to go out afterwards for a little bit. Didn't get much to do, but still was a fun time.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I like what I saw from Matthew Robertson, except getting completely walked by Brad Marchand in that Bruins game. But then again, if I'm complaining about a guy who arguably is a top 10 player in the league, oh well.
I don't think he's ready yet. I think he needs to do a lot of work. I'd be shocked if you saw him this season. I think maybe next year, okay, depending on his progress. I think he doesn't have NHL speed yet. He's a good skater, but I don't think he's got like NHL like reliable speed. I think his strength also. He's got size, but I think he needs work in the strength department there. So
I'm gonna click on one before I click on another one, which is yes.
I was just gonna click on that too.
Yeah, tailgating is like stinking 12 back on the golf course. Yep, thank goodness. And then you still stop for the cart girl because let's be honest, you still got to flirt with the cart girl for a minute. But this one caught my eye. Johnny, we wish you all the best.
Yeah.
I hope a quick recovery for you. And I hope also when you have your experience, you could also tell the Buffalo Sabres what to do with Jack Eichel. So, because you're having the 3 disc fuse. So,
best of luck to you, man.
But yeah, we wish you the best. You guys have been great. You've been great. Again.
Yeah, we're all with you here. Big Apple hockey community, internet hockey community. All hoping for the best for you, man.
Yeah, and I like that you got that joke too. And then of course, best wishes, Johnny.
Ooh, this is an interesting one from Julian. Who gets on the third defensive pairing? It's pretty much.
It's got to be Nils Lundqvist.
It's Nils and Nemeth at this point. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be them to lose.
And don't forget, contract situations play into it.
Yeah, Patrick Nemeth is not really that good. I didn't like the signing. I think they gave him too much money for what he is. You could have went out and gotten John Merrill to play the same exact position and give you better results for less money. So that's why I don't like that one. But let's hope that Patrick Nemeth ends up being solid.
Yeah, and worst case, although there's a 3-year deal. Like I think we talked about that with Dan Rosen last week, where he's here to play for the Rangers.
Yeah, I think if anything, they might end up moving him after this year because I think they're going to see how bad he is.
Once more, by the way, prayers for Johnny.
Yep.
I
remember when Spooner scored. Oh my god!
Yeah, remember when Spooner scored 15 points in 20 games? We all thought he was going to be a key player.
He was a point per game player for a while. For the first, I would say, 10 games or so, he was a point per game with the Rangers. So
it's just he looked like he was going to be a player. Then the Rangers moved him and got back Ryan Strome, and I rolled my eyes. Boy, was I wrong. I have no problem admitting that one. I was wrong about that. And Ryan Strome was a good third-line player on that. By the way, Johnny, obviously we all got to make this joke. You tried to get disc replacement, but they couldn't at your age. Obviously, Kevin Adams was blocking that surgery. So
I'm going to go to this one from Grant because I like this one. If you were gallant and can play anyone, what will your defensive pairs be for opening night? You're obviously not going to break up Lindgren and Fox. That's left and right here. That's your top pairing. I would say I would want to play Zach Jones with Jacob Trouba and see how that goes. And I think I would want to try to see what Nils Lundqvist and Braden Schneider could do on the third pairing together. Because I know that's a young pairing. I know it's 2 rookies. But to me, I think Braden Schneider, by the end of this year, could end up being better than Patrick Nemeth. I do not hold Nemeth in high regard, as you can obviously tell. So,
well, having the versatility to play either the left or the right is a great thing. Nemeth has that versatility. And Braden Schneider, I think he was working on that versatility, if I recall correctly.
Well, him and Nils Lundqvist both said that they would.
So in that case, even if you want to, now this is a different scenario. You could ease him in and have, depending on the matchups, different defensemen for different teams. Now, you could do that. I'm just saying, because that's been done before in the past. They've tried to ease them in. But yeah, I would, for me, my defense pairings are the usual suspects on the top 4: Miller, Trouba, Fox, Lindgren. Thank God for Ryan Lindgren, because he has just been, he's still going to be great. And then that bottom 6 is going to be Nils Lundqvist and Patrick Nemeth for right now. So we're going to ride with them opening night. Maybe not. You know what? Actually, now you're saying opening night. I might want to go with Tenorti, but I think it's going to be Patrick Nemeth. Ryan Reeves is on opening night.
Yeah, Ryan Reeves is definitely going to be playing opening night.
Okay, so by the way, John, so opening night, I just found out I don't have a hockey game. So do you want to do a live show where we're watching the game, or everybody keeps talking about those? I don't know, but or at least a live show. Well, we're going to be doing a live show. It's a Wednesday anyway, guys. So we're going to do a live show before that. So I don't know. We'll figure that one out, because that's a new wrinkle. I see the ones where people are getting together to watch the games.
Yeah, this one is just, they wanted Elias Pettersson, and then they settled for Elias Anderson instead. I don't know, maybe they got the 2 names confused. Oh, Elias, maybe they're close because of the names are close. But you passed up on Martin Natris, you passed up on Nick Suzuki, on Eric Brandstrom, and you took a guy that was later of the round projected.
And they took a player in the NHL draft based on need. the first round of the NHL draft because most guys don't play the next year. Most of them. And they took a guy that they thought was going to be a Swiss Army knife, play either wing and the center. Instead, they just took blah. And you passed up on Marty Natchez.
Yeah.
And no, you said Nick Suzuki too. I forgot about Nick Suzuki. But come on.
Nick Suzuki could have helped, but this one is good because we were just talking about it before. I mean, Ryan Lindgren, his development has just been incredible. The skating is really the big thing with Ryan Lindgren. When he played a brief cup of coffee, I think it was at the end of the 2018 season, and I think 2019, I think he played a couple of games. He did not look like he was going to be like like even anywhere close to a top 4 defenseman, but he improved his skating big time in 2019 and then came back in the 2019-2020 season, and he looked like he slimmed down, he added on some muscle, and he got quicker too. And that's really what what propelled his career.
But you know something? Just to go a little bit further into that, that's the mentality makeup of the player. And that's where the interview process is so big because
totally.
You get a guy, as my throat scratchy. I just drank some water. How the hell is my throat scratchy? You get a guy who, as you just said, his skating wasn't there. He wasn't there as a player. Comes back the following year, has a pretty good actual rookie season. But you said it best a while ago. You knew that was going to work out because him and Fox played together on Team USA. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, but with that said, it doesn't always carry over. We've seen success like Brennan Othman and Shane Wright, who's projected to be the consensus first overall pick in this upcoming draft in 2022. They've been best friends since they were kids. They played together before juniors. And it looks like Othman is about to be traded from the Flint Firebirds to the Kingston Frontenacs to again play with his best friend, Shane Wright. So while that success could carry over at higher levels, it's not a guarantee that it does. And sometimes one player will make the leap and the other doesn't, So if one player ends up here and the other player just ends up staying here. But in this case, Ryan Lindgren knew what he had to do to get to that point. And that's why I like your point about the mental makeup of the player. That's what that is. That's the player that's telling himself, hey, I need to kick myself in the ass and get myself in gear to make that next jump. And that's why someone like Lias Andersson might not end up making the jump because
he never got that kick in the ass. That's the thing about Lias Andersson. And the thing is, that kick in the ass was there plenty of times with the New York Rangers. And it's certainly there with the Los Angeles Kings too. But the difference is going in with this, there's lots of guys that have looked themselves in the mirror and said, I need to get better because whether or not it's as somebody as small as, say, a Ryan Lindgren or as high as a John Tavares or Sidney Crosby, the quote I will always go to about Sidney Crosby is what Matt Cullen said about him, former Ranger Matt Cullen for the one season. And it was Sidney Crosby prepares for every game like a fourth liner trying to make the team. And he's got Hall of Fame talent. That's what you want out of your player. Always drive everybody to be better.
Yeah,
Shannon, take it easy. I will be drafting Connor McDavid, number 1 overall. I would love to know who I got in the second round. By the way, what do you guys think? Should I go for Cale Makar on the way back on the snake? I got 2 picks. I can get Cale Makar and Connor Hellebuyck. But I think that's a little bit too much of a reach for Hellebuyck, but we'll see about that.
I don't know. Depends on what goalies are available. I don't know. I mean, your third pick.
Once again, by the way.
How many teams is your draft?
It's 12. By the way, once again, Shannon helped me Bring on the Hockey Season. Check that out. Terrible singing, good writing. So,
we know Marc will never win American Idol.
I definitely won't.
Unless he tries.
I won't be the worst one. I won't be the worst one, though.
No, because you could try to be like William Hung, and that could possibly help you.
Well, I am hung. So
Okay, about that. Moving on.
All right. We're going to go about 5 more minutes because I got to get the podcast posted before the game starts. And
I got
and once again, John and I are checking out UBS Arena tomorrow. I'll send you the address where you're going to meet us because it's going to be in a parking lot. We're probably going to have a beer afterwards. I'll drive in so that way you guys don't have any. And yes, Anderson throwing the medal. People said that was such a great indicator. He's going to be a great captain. Oh, it was a head case moment. I actually didn't like it to begin with. Who throws their medal?
I was mixed on it because I thought it was good because I like the fire that he showed, but it ended up being a foreshadowing of the fact that he's just somebody who throws tantrums when he doesn't get his way. And listen, the organization did him wrong. I will say that, but he did not help himself at all to get to that next level, make that next step. And I honestly don't know if he'll ever do anything in LA.
Yeah, I don't think he will. Oh, by the way, Grant, I'm getting McDavid with the first overall pick. Kale is the second round pick. So again, it's yeah, I know. Rick, we were talking about this the other day. Unfortunately, I think it's just NHL.com is the only way you could do it, and if you don't have the package. Although, you know what? If you got Hulu, try ESPN Plus, because I know that's
ESPN Plus is now what all the games are on. I don't think NHL TV is available anymore now.
Oh, no, it's still on. I watch all the games.
On NHL TV?
Yeah, I watch the games on NHL TV as the recaps, and it's usually their recaps on NHL TV.
No, I'm talking like the live streams of like the games that are going on, like how like Center Ice is.
I'm pretty sure they still got it because you would have to get all the different manufacturers. You know what? That's a great one. Or the manufacturers, Jesus, all the media companies. But all right, we are going 2 more minutes right now. So
yeah, it's interesting. How dare you take Kale over Fox? I mean,
in fantasy, it's sort of like love. You got to put your. Well, you know what though? Here's the great thing. You just said it just now. Fox, you can wait till the end of the second round, beginning of the third round. Problem is, in a snake draft, it goes with number 1. Then I get 13, 14.
It also depends on who's available. Like,
12 and no, 13, 14. That's right.
You think if you're okay, so you're in a 12-team league, you said?
Oh, yeah. And I just also screwed that up anyway. I just did it like a regular draft. No, I'm going to get 1, 24, and 25. That's what I'm getting. So I might get Adam Fox.
Yeah, you're not gonna be drafting at you're not gonna get 12 or you're not gonna get 12 and 13.
And by the way, that's where you would slot in and say you get Fox and Hellebuyck right there at 24, 25. Done. Maybe even Mika Zibanejad if I wanted to. But if I already got McDavid, you can start spreading out your positions.
Because if you think about it, the 10 players you're going to look at are probably going to be McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Panarin, Marchand, Pasternak. I mean, who else are you looking? Rantanen, and maybe not top 10, but just he's probably going to be somewhere in the top 20.
Oh, are you doing top 10? So your top 5 right away.
Kucherov,
McDavid, Kucherov, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Matthews could slide.
Matthews is probably a top 5. Yeah,
Panarin could slide into the top 5. Pasternak, Marchand. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. Ovechkin, Chris, actually is falling into sort of the second round area now, but he has so many shots on goal. He can win you shots on goal alone every single week. Anytime you see anyone, this is a good one, John. How about this? Are there measuring stick games that you're looking forward to?
That's another solid question from Grant.
Grant,
I mean, the Islanders games are always going to be a gauge. That's going to be a litmus test. The Islanders, really, I would say that would be one. The Capitals, to see how they respond with this whole Wilson thing is going to be a good one. I would say like a team like Colorado and Vegas would be two other really good games because they're going to be competitive teams that are going to have cup aspirations. But yeah, those are the teams that I would really look at, I would say.
The first measuring stick game is obviously opening night. Their next one after that, I would say, is Thanksgiving Eve against the New York Islanders. Maybe if things are breaking the way we think they're breaking, you could throw the Florida Panthers on November 8th.
Yeah, Florida is going to be a good game because that's going to be a tough team. They're going to be a tough team. They're going to be good.
I'm calling it right now. We're probably going to do an NHL prediction show maybe on Monday, but I'm going to call it Florida Panthers are winning the Atlantic. Even though they got goaltending questions and Tampa Bay doesn't, I fully believe Florida is going to win the Atlantic. After that, you know what? Most of the measuring stick games are probably in December. Philadelphia, see how they're going to be against them. They got Colorado at home. I mean, obviously the big boys, but there are some up-and-coming teams too. Want to see how the Rangers play in Vegas. I want to see how they're going to do on that first West Coast swing to Canada, where they go Vancouver, Edmonton, and then Calgary in the back-to-back. So
yeah, Edmonton's really the team I worry about there. The other two are Vancouver's really hit or miss right now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you have Pettersson and Hughes missing part of camp in preseason, so that's not great. Calgary does not look like a good team anymore. They look like they're on the down and out. But Edmonton is really the team where you want to say, hey, that's a tough test because you're going to have two of the top 5 players in the league or so to deal with.
I'm in Honolulu, Hawaii. Hockey is the furthest priority on cable.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's why we got the internet.
Yeah, that is true.
I had guys at my bar betting on KHL minor league teams.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no. That's a no for me, dog. Might end up being a really good player.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
All right. So, guys, I got to get this up, and then I'm going to probably watch the first period of the game and then go out and have a beer myself. So,
yeah,
we're hoping to get the previews up tomorrow afternoon for in case you missed all of it. But, again, great job showing up and being with us throughout the entire show. Like I said, we're probably going to do some more shows throughout the year, and can't wait for this. So let's go do this. Let's do that hockey. Okay.
Let's do that hockey, baby.
Let's do that hockey. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Go turn on MSG right now if you can. Sorry, Rick. I know you can't, but let's go Rangers.
Take care, everybody.